Welcome to ETN, the most European podcast
We are live.
in the world.
You can turn it off now.
Sorry.
Welcome to ETN, the most European podcast in the world. Thank you very much for joining us on this fine Thursday, 2nd of April. It was April Fool's yesterday, and we hated it. I was fooled.
I was fooled so many times.
hard. So I have never really played into the whole April Fool's thing. And
But you never played an April Fool's?
I don't think so. No.
You've never been the fool?
I'm a bit boring, to be honest. And and who was it? It was. Let me go onto my DMs because I pinged someone, was like, "Oh, come on the show. This is interesting." And then like I saw the comments like 2 hours later, and they were like, "Oh, great April Fool's, man." So I re-messaged the same message.
That poor person.
Yeah.
Well, they thought you were pranking them. So come on.
No. They thought I was real. So it was Tancred, I hope, at Tancred DIB. Yeah, I hope I've said that right. Says, I'm leaving entrepreneurs first. From investor to builder. Turns out the bridge worked a little too well. I found someone I want to build with, so I'm stepping down to go all in. This wasn't an easy decision, but I'm convinced it's the right one. We'll both be joining the residency this spring, so this isn't really goodbye. I was like, oh my God, that's sick. Like, leaving to go and build, whatever. Obviously, like, is building the bridge, investing at the bridge. We're gonna get them on anyway. But I then pinged them and said, hey, want to come on ETN tomorrow to talk about the bridge and what you're building now?
And they were like...
I got fully fooled. Then like 2 hours later, I replied to my own message and said, okay, realizing now I've just been fooled. Good one, Chan. He was like, yeah, apologies, mate. The April Fool's clickbait opportunity was too hard to pass up.
Very well done. I thought you meant you asked them to come on the show and they were like, oh, good one, you're April Foolsing me.
Oh, no.
It's like that poor person. It's like, oh, how sad is that?
Yeah.
Anyway, let me tell you guys about
Tancred is going to come on
first. After that, now we can tell you about Airwallex. Leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex. It's the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all-in-one platform. Go to airwallex.com.
Yes.
The lineup today, we've got a pretty stellar lineup, actually. Really looking forward to this one. Just
Are you
to run
surprised?
through things. No, not at all.
We normally do.
That was my April Fool's joke I've just played on you now.
Nice.
Pretending that I was surprised that we had a good lineup.
So great.
First guest on, Andreas Cleve, co-founder of Corti. It's the generative AI platform for healthcare. They've just released Symphony for medical coding, and it's rivaling accuracy against Anthropic and OpenAI with this specific use case. So Andreas is going to come on and talk to us about that. Following that, we have Frederick Gregard, the CEO of the Cardano Foundation. I am incredibly excited about this conversation. So Frederick Gregard stepped in as CEO for the Cardano Foundation. For those who aren't aware, it is the crypto token with the ticker ADA. It was one of the most sought after coins, one of the most sought after altcoins from sort of 2020 onwards. So going to be jumping into that with him, talking about the ecosystem, talking about the future, and I guess high level the cryptocurrency industry and where it is today. Indeed. Following that, we've got Luke Ramsden, founder at Architect. Architect is building the first agentic website platform, AI-powered websites that dynamically adapt to each visitor. Damn, that sounds pretty interesting. I hadn't seen that before.
Do you not do anything with your guests?
No, of course. I just hadn't seen it explain that.
No, Luke's a gangster. He's probably one of the best founders I know in London, actually. He is very cool. Met him for coffee yesterday for the first time, but have been looking and following his work. They've been building for almost 2 years now, I believe. It was like 1 year, 9 months, something since they started Architect. And he has some very interesting takes on what's going on in the future of software engineering and what he's seeing on the ground. Building and everything else in between. He does a ton of talks in London, is a huge kind of like London maxer, as they say. So yeah, it's going to be very, very good to talk to Luke. Next on the show, we have Faris Spahi.
Spahi. The way you've pulled the E from.
I don't know. It's because there's a rower called Mo Sabihi. So it's like
Luke is a rower for the
Faris Spahi, co-founder and CEO at Normal Computing. I believe their CBO is joining us too.
Yeah, Craig Churchill is also coming on the show. A little bit about Normal. They recently raised a 50 million Series B funding led by Samsung Catalyst Fund with participation from new investors like Galvanize and also existing backers Celesta Capital and Eric Schmidt's First Spark Ventures. They have currently raised a total of 85 million today, so we're going to be digging into it with them. It's going to be an interesting one. So the funds will accelerate the development of proprietary thermodynamic computing hardware and scale their current AI software for hardware engineering. This is all the buzz, all the rave right now. People building software for hardware. Who do we have? Nominal guys doing absolute gangster stuff. I remember out of everyone we've had on the show, they were probably the most standout company in terms of I would sell the clothes off my back in order to angel into a Series F at 50 billion valuation.
So just as some context, Normal are super interesting because what they're doing is there's constraints to computing and data centers, one being energy. And instead of basically 2030, they're saying that by 2028, we're going to have a 49 gigawatt shortfall in terms of power. Essentially what Normal Computing does, they use thermodynamic computing and they kind of flip the script, literally, by using noise to, it's kind of nuts. Using like data noise, not like actual noise. It's kind of bonkers. Anyway, we're going to talk to Faris and get the deep dive on what he is seeing and what's going on, and why we should all be thinking and caring about thermodynamic computing. Also, their name is super interesting too. Anyway, then next on the show, I believe we have.
Yes.
Is it Joe Fitzsimmons? Joe Fitzsimmons. He is the founder and CEO of Horizon Quantum. Do you want to explain what Horizon Quantum is?
So I can try, but it is honestly out of my depth. Basically, they recently listed on the NASDAQ. Joe is an incredibly interesting individual. Joe essentially gave up a tenured professorship at Singapore University to go out ahead and start Horizon Quantum Computing. And their overall goal is advancing the widespread adoption of quantum computing, essentially. So he's been grinding away at this for I think over 5 years for sure. But they recently went public with the ticker HQ. We're going to be digging into sort of all the premises about like what are people getting wrong about quantum computing? What impact does quantum computing have on AI? There's been a lot of talk recently about how it's essentially making Bitcoin obsolete. I'm going to ask him about that as well. I'm not sure if he's going to want to talk about that, but it just seems to be a hot topic right now, so we're going to have to bring it up. But Joe is just an incredibly talented, incredibly intelligent individual, and he's decided to join us just 2 weeks after the company was listed on the NASDAQ. So our second publicly listed CEO, I think, coming on the show after Navan, which is excellent. Following that, we are welcoming Bobby Healy onto the show. We have a mystery guest in between those that we can't discuss right now because there is a release involved around that.
Oh, that's lucky. I was going to mention.
Oh, close call. So mystery guest after that. But then we are welcoming Bobby Healy, founder and CEO at Manor Air Delivery. They recently, I think either yesterday or the day before, confirmed a 50 million Series B funding led by ARK Invest, which brings their total raise to date to 110 million. They are basically scaling consumer drone delivery. Part of the funding is going to be used to scale and expand in the US and Ireland as well. Bunch of stuff to dig into with him, like partnerships with Uber, Deliveroo, DoorDash. Why is there an ICP forming around these companies? We can probably work it out, but it'd be good to hear it from the horse's mouth. How fast is the drone delivery market growing? How do you even get regulatory approval to fly these things over dense populations? I think in 2018, they basically went, as when they started, they've gone from 0 to 250,000 completed drone deliveries in that time. I can see a future in which this becomes the norm, right? You need something, you just press a couple. I mean, it's already happening, right? You press a few buttons, drone comes, delivers it in your backyard. Happy days.
Yeah.
You can get all those delicious goods that people like to order online, just delivered to your doorstep. No more heading to the shops.
And no more humans involved. I think that's the key thing.
And no more humans involved, yeah.
We won't have, in London is not a problem, but like you got Deliveroo, Uber Eats, everything else in between, riding about on their mopeds. It's kind of crazy.
Get off
out
the
in these
road.
streets. It's kind of crazy.
Off the road.
Anyway, before we jump into the news, Base, the infrastructure for the on-chain world. Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org. Let's jump into the news. It was a John Thornhill article that was super interesting. John Thornhill is a writer, columnist, editor. He actually founded Sifted as well. But he's head editor of innovation at the FT. I believe that's his title. Innovation editor at the Financial Times. There we go.
Nice. The headline for this is great as well.
He came out with an article. Are we on the article?
Yeah, this is an opinion piece, which I like.
Nice.
That's what they call it.
It is titled "US Investors Prefer Europe Maxing to Europe Bashing." Kind of sad that they didn't. I've been flagged in the past for. I think I wrote a tweet maybe it was 3 weeks ago, and I went maybe it was 40,000 views or something. But I said Europe maxing, and so many comments were like, "Why are you calling it Europe maxing? Call it Euro maxing. There's more of a whatever." So I was gonna ping a tweet to Mr. John Thornhill yesterday, but I thought that was a little bit Euro bashing.
Okay, your article sucks.
Yeah. No. In the tweet, it did say. I actually wrote the tweet out. It said, great article. Like, I actually loved the article.
Wait, was it one of those ones where you write out and then you think for a second, then you delete it?
I actually posted it and then deleted it.
So
I posted it.
I've
and
done many of those. We've all been there.
Too many flames.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But it did say. I said,
it's annoying when that happens.
just as a heads up, don't call. We usually call it Euro maxing.
Just letting you know.
I also saw a ton of comments on, because how the FT they just basically post a link to every single one of their articles on X. Maybe not every single one, but the big ones.
Yeah, most of them. But Bloomberg,
or the most ones.
Bloomberg, every 3 or 4 minutes they have one going out. It's insane. I don't know how.
There's Bloomberg AI. To be fair, but
they must be doing AI for that.
All of the comments on the FT, on the X post of this FT article, was giving chat about the fact that it was Europe, not Euro maxing.
Supporting the use of that?
They were like, great article. Like a few people were like, great article, whatever. And then a lot of people were like, why is it like, what happened to Euro maxing? So anyway, he's dropped the ball there. But there's a lovely picture of Mistral's CEO and Nvidia's CEO in the top of the article. But the article reads, and this was yesterday: if only Europeans believed in themselves as much as some Americans do, then Europe's tech sector could be jostling at the front of the global pack. That may seem an odd thing to say, given Europe bashing appears to be a state-sponsored export industry in the US. Last year, US Vice President J.D. Vance warned that the enemy within was threatening Europe. The US national security strategy asserted that Europe was facing civilization erasure. And more recently, Elon Musk accused Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, of being a tyrant and a traitor for wanting to protect children from what the Spanish leader calls the digital Wild West. Europeans might have formed the impression that the US considers the region to be illiberal, censorious and technologically backward, a place to be avoided at all costs for anything other than sipping cortados and staring at art. But when you check out,
that's all right, just there. That's fine to just sipping cortados, staring at art.
What do you think? Yeah, draw the line there.
Yeah, that's done. Isn't that what everyone's working towards anyway?
Yeah, basically.
That's the outcome, right?
In America they say pina coladas on the beach, but yeah.
Hey, I'd take a cortado staring at art.
That's the end game for most people.
I think we just
not the most tech pill people though. What they want is to change humanity, as Elon Musk says. But When check out with some US tech companies and investors are doing, a very different story emerges. In some areas, US investors have been all in on Europe or Europe maxing, to modify a phrase. The worry for Europe is that love may be just as unsettling as scorn. The one area in which US investors have been far more committed to than their European counterparts is in providing venture capital funding to European startups. A recent Process Deal Room report found that US investors contributed 73% of the capital going into funding rounds of more than $100 million in European AI companies. That's bonkers. 73% is actually kind of wild.
Yeah, that is nuts. But I mean, like, I wouldn't even say it's a... Like, that's an AI
it's not
thing.
It's not surprising.
It's like an AI thing, though. Like, how much money is flowing? I mean, I guess globally, how much money is flowing into non-AI companies right now? Basically nothing. But is that like... Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's an AI thing. It's not like a location thing. But I guess location is attached to AI as well, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, you've got the argument that Europe has shifted away from kind of building more locally to building as Index A, global from day one.
From day one.
And hence VCs
Shout
are
out to
therefore...
Martin Mignot, actually.
Shout out to Martin Mignot.
Who liked our tweet the other day. Martin.
Shout out to Martin Mignot.
We'd love to talk.
But if companies are building global from day one, VCs are therefore going to be investing globally more frequently. And where is the most money sitting at the moment for the tech sector? It's the US. So it kind of, it's like a relative thing, right? I don't think that that percentage is crazy from like an absolute kind of stance, but realistically, there are there are reasons that mean that's all relative, right?
I'm saying, hey, thanks for the money.
Indeed.
Love that.
Indeed.
Cheers for the cash, guys.
Anyway, as Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's chief executive, flagged on a visit to London last year, the British tech sector has been experiencing a Goldilocks moment, being neither too hot nor too cold. When it comes to hiring top AI researchers and funding exciting startups, a US dollar goes a lot further in Europe than it does in Silicon Valley. I think we talked to, who also said that?
Martin Mignot.
Was it Martin Mignot?
It was Martin again. I'm telling you, it's that guy. It's that guy,
Martin.
Martin.
You got to come on.
He said the benefits and the advantages are
there's an arbitrage, right?
Yeah, a talent arbitrage where you can build in Europe at a discount and then sell to the US as a premium, essentially. So like now
you can take that
just,
arbitrage,
construct the whole thing, sell everything to the US.
I mean, look, there's talks. Silicon Valley. There's there is almost like a precedent that is set now where, all these software engineers are almost like demanding very, very high pay because they know that they can, because they know the value of themselves, right? They know the value. And so prices just are incredibly sky high. Whereas in Europe, that's less so. Of course, like one of the most well-paid, job sectors to kind of go into, but nowhere near the same salaries as the ones in the US.
I think for the top level talent, there's no real.
No, I agree.
difference.
But then again,
I guess
it's global, right?
Yeah.
Like you're on a global plane. Like if you're going to work at Gemini, for example, a US company now, or Google, but if you're going to work as an AI researcher at Gemini in London, you'll be paid probably the same.
Yeah, you'll be paid wedge.
You will be paid wedge.
Anyway,
Europe is certainly bursting with its own AI research talent, but it's not so good at optimizing it for local advantage. According to the Process Deal Room report, Europe matches US headcount in AI researchers, developers, and engineers with 325,000 experts on either side of the Atlantic. But the three biggest recruiters of the European researchers are giant US tech companies, namely Google, Meta, and Amazon. The big US AI research labs, OpenAI and Anthropic, have been busily hiring in London and across Europe too.
On that point there, like whilst that's interesting to note that the headcount is matched from Europe to US across like 325,000 experts.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know like what that density looks like per city. Like I would estimate that London would probably account for maybe like
this is a really good point
of that.
Yeah,
probably,
this
right?
is a really good point. who was it? Gritcolt's London Maxing article, which I guess we could pull up, but I can't be asked to go and look for it. But there's a section in there that basically talks about the density of the UK specifically, but basically talks about how the amount of heads per square meter is, I don't know how many times, but like
something higher.
multiples higher than the rest of the world, and it's one of the most dense countries in the world in terms of GDP per capita. That's great point. That's a good point.
I am conscious to jump to the next article just because
Dude, I'm enjoying it. We've got a few paragraphs. Come on.
We have 7 to go through and the tweets.
That's fine.
Our guests come on in 40 minutes.
That's fine. Okay, fine. We can move away. Fine.
Not that I'm not enjoying
I feel
this.
bad.
There's a lot of news. There's a lot of news to get through.
It's interesting.
I'm not saying
this
it's
is great article.
It is good. It is good.
The
But
European
next on the
Technology
docket.
Network.
Thank you for that, Luke. It's very good. Next
Before we do, Primo, build better sites
Tell 'em about
faster. The
Primo.
all-in-one platform where enterprise
Tell 'em
teams
about
design, build, and
Primo.
ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. Go to framo.com/ETN.
Next on the docket, we have OpenAI announcing 122 billion funding round at 852 billion valuation, the largest funding round in Silicon Valley history. So we're going to talk a little bit about this because this is pretty nuts. I'm not sure. I mean, the news broke yesterday officially about this announcement. Everyone kind of knew it was coming, but I'm going to get up the official. We're going to read from the official OpenAI website and where they posted this. And I've never seen more, like, I know we obviously do it sometimes, like news aggregators, right? When it's like story drops, then people will sort of post it onto their Twitter account. Because we are a technology show, we do that quite often. We will always like source and credit the original authors of the post. But I've never seen like something hit escape velocity quicker than this in terms of how many people were posting, like people who don't do that were posting like breaking, it was literally all over.
Because it's the biggest private deal ever.
No, yeah, well, it just speaks to the how
almost
insane
$1 trillion private deal.
absolutely nuts. So they shared in a statement. Today we closed our latest funding round with 122 billion in committed capital at a post-money valuation of 852 billion. OpenAI is becoming the core infrastructure for AI, making it possible for people around the world and businesses, big and small, to just build things. The broad consumer reach of ChatGPT creates a powerful distribution channel into the workplace where demand is rapidly shifting from basic model access to intelligent systems and reshape how businesses operate. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just a few headlines here. Because we don't have time. But by the end of 2024, we were generating 1 billion per quarter. We are now generating 2 billion in revenue per month, which is absolutely nuts. There's some other stuff in here that's not that interesting. And that's basically it. But the more interesting part of it was that there were a couple pieces around this release. One by the FT. This was authored by George Hammond, based in San Francisco. Around part of this raise, 3 billion of this was from retail investors, part of the whole record funding haul. But they let a few. I would love to know, classify retail investor. How what was the infrastructure used to let these 3 billion? Because I think retail investors in my head, and I think about like the GME guys who are just like launching money into stocks that they've never researched. Obviously, everyone knows who OpenAI is, but like, is this retail investors or is this like incredible high net worth individuals?
The infrastructure behind it. So the indirect access to the upside was through like ETFs. OpenAI has been added to ETFs like managed by Kathy Wood's ARK Invest, specifically 3 funds. So ARK Innovation ETF, ARK Next Generation Internet ETF, and the ARK FinTech Innovation ETF.
There was another one though. What was that one that had exposure to OpenAI, Anthropic, Anduril?
Don't know.
It was up like 1,000% in 5 days, and then it had this like spectacular crash. Molly O'Shea did an interview with the founder.
It's
like V something. The ticker is like VCV.
VCV.
I can't remember. That's going to annoy me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a classic move for a company that's just about to IPO, offering, kind of, it's almost like a little bit of a goodwill type thing. It allows for the democratization of the upside, and therefore more people to be, monetarily, but then also, kind of in your head, like bought into this thing. It's
like nothing CEO. when they did
Indeed.
they did a huge round, and then like a few weeks later they did like a really small 2 million or 5 million. Like,
yeah.
small comparatively to the previous round.
It allows you to be, it allows to create very loyal shareholders that when you do IPO, you have more money. Sam Altman has said before that, I think it was like quoted, like to build the infrastructure for intelligence, it could require up to $1.4 trillion over the next 8 years. Obviously, democratizing this and opening this up to retail investors allows him to, open up that new pool of capital that he didn't necessarily have before. And I think it's all driven specifically as well, most interestingly to me, driven obviously by ChatGPT's consumer kind of like, handle on everything. So by doing this early, and we can pull up the poly market a little bit. We could do it now if you want.
Yeah.
We could pull up the poly market now. There is, I think it's a 77% now chance for yes that OpenAI will IPO at over $1 trillion by the end of 2020. Is it 2026?
2027.
2027.
Will it 1 trillion IPO? And this is interesting because we saw, who was it? Coatue Management, I think I'm pronouncing that right, modeled out what would a Anthropic valuation look like by the year 2030. And their estimates based off current revenue and how it was growing month on month, year on year, was an estimation of 1.05 trillion by 2030.
Okay.
So 1 trillion IPO before 2027 does not seem unlikely. I think this is mispriced. I think this is a good
Big
buy.
take.
This is not financial advice. I said when we started the show, I said I would sell the clothes off my back to invest in nominal at Series F. So I am not financially literate. Let me just make that incredibly clear.
Nice.
But I do think this is underpriced. I do genuinely believe.
And do you think the timescale by 2027 over $1 trillion? I mean, as I was saying, the ChatGPT kind of consumer side to it. He's got all of those loyal fans, as you say, as you would say, and opening it up to them as early as the beginning of 2026, when the plan is to probably IPO sometime in like late 27. That's pretty early to do something like that, right? It's a play to get those loyal shareholders like, right, okay, we're gonna, I'm gonna actually put my money where my mouth is, become a shareholder, regardless of whether that's indirect or not. But I'm like bought in now to hopefully have this IPO go very, very well.
I think it will be the most spectacular IPO of all time. People will do anything they can to get any exposure to this. They will be hurling money at it. Like the moment that's on like a trading 212 or a Robinhood, like people will just be smashing cash into that. Even with like SpaxeX, to a similar degree. I even think like the recent moon, like the recent like US launch, was it the Artemis 2 that was live streamed last night, which is insane, by the way. I really enjoyed watching that.
Not covering that today, unfortunately.
Not covering that, but even that's just like a great marketing stunt for the SpaxeX IPO, right? It reminds people that this is a real thing, that this is like you can be part of this. It's
there's tailwinds happening. Yeah, 100%. There's tailwinds. Anyway, sorry.
We can bring that down. I don't know. That's what I was saying. But I will say actually, I was reading the Infinity Machine last night in bed, and I said to myself, I'm just going to start reading this. I want to get through it. We're having Sebastian on next Tuesday. Little Easter egg spoiler there for you guys. I want to get through it. I want to start. So nothing's going to distract me because I'm in bed, and it was like 10 p.m., which is earlier than usual. Because usually we kind of finish around like 11ish, maybe. Then you've got to get ready for the next day. But then you get in bed at like 11:30, and by the time you go in bed, it's like midnight. So I was in bed at 10, had the book, was cracking through it, and I had my phone there, but my phone was face down. I was like, I'm not going to let anything distract me. And then like a BBC breaking news noise went off.
Oh no!
And like usually that doesn't even bother me. For some reason, I kind of check my phone, and like it was like, watch live, like the Artemis 2 or whatever it's called at launch. I was like, that's like the one thing that is like fair to distract me right now. So as I'm like reading about one of the greatest minds in human history, I'm now like also watching this Artemis like humans going to the moon again. And then there was a moment now. I was like,
wow.
we're living in cool times, man.
Yeah,
We're
we
living in
really
some
are.
pretty
We really are. But back to the OpenAI. So SpaxeX has filed for an IPO. OpenAI has not filed for an IPO, hasn't announced anything of an official timeline to go public at all. It is kind of reporting that it's preparing like potential kind of listings and all that kind of stuff. And they are saying that there's a potential debut of as early as Q4 2026. So that could be super interesting. I'm sure there'll be a polymarket on that pretty soon if there isn't now. But you can see in the internal hiring, they're hiring for finance roles. OpenAI has hired key executives for IPO readiness, including a new chief accounting officer, head of investor relations, who is the former DocuSign CFO, Cynthia Gaylor.
How much do you think these lot get paid?
An absolute
shed load.
Yes.
You gonna swear that?
No.
Because like it's not easy, but with the AI researchers and the senior AI hires, you kind of just guess it's like, a few M's a year.
Yeah.
All in. Do you rate the finance?
I mean, look, if they're doing $1 trillion IPO from private to public, when they do the IPO, it will just be like, it's already going to be one of the most valuable companies in the world. Dude, they're going to be on, multi-10 millions.
It's an interesting flavour.
Is it?
Yeah. Raspberry orange blossom.
Shout out to Trip.
Shout out to Trip.
Another UK business, absolutely ripping.
This is free advertising.
I don't know if they are in the US.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Be worth knowing. But anyway, they are ripping as well. They're like one of the fastest growing FMCG brands, like I want to say ever, to be honest.
It's a weird taste, this one. I'm not sure if I like it.
Nice. Good job they're not our sponsor. Talking about sponsors, Spectre, be the reason your fund wins the deal of the decade. Go to tryspectre.com. Let's move on to story number 3.
Oh, okay, so this is an interesting one.
This is hilarious. Some of the stuff in this article is actually laughable.
Dear.
It's unbelievably
tech sovereignty. Tech sovereignty.
Talk about tech sovereignty.
We've been chatting away. We've been chatting over here. We've been chatting over there. We've been chatting an awful lot about this. I have been slightly outspoken on the fact that we can't just say we're tech sovereign and destroy all the great technology that we use that come from the US and replace our Zooms with our French Beboos or whatever it's called as we sort of rip away technology that works very well.
I think it's called Thundercloud.
You're joking me. Yeah. You're joking. It's called Thundercloud. The French.
No, it's the German. It's the German. Oh no, sorry. Thunderbird.
That is so German.
This is a little snippet. I read this morning, absolutely hilarious. Then came an email requiring a shift from Microsoft's Exchange and Outlook to open source alternatives called Open Exchange, but Exchange is X and then change.
I like what they did there.
And Thunderbird. The migration involved 44,000 accounts and about 110 million items, including emails and calendar entries. Anyway, let's go to the
it's
start
wreaking
of the article.
havoc. These poor civilians that are just at the whim of these ridiculous sovereign changes. I'd honestly move. So, title is Inside the German State Trying to Break Free from Microsoft. This is Laura Pittel.
I don't know what's called the German state.
I thought that was
a tiny little German town.
Schleswig-Holstein's radical tech overhaul offers Europe a live experiment in ending dependence on US big tech. Okay, so this is
for a caveat. This is not an experiment. No one cares about this.
This is like actually a physical, real example of what happens when we try and do this. Okay, so this small German state bids to cut loose from Microsoft has not been plain sailing. As officials in the finance division of Schleswig-Holstein had their email accounts moved to alternative open source systems last September, messages began landing in the wrong inboxes. Some judges and police received no emails at all. That's like how far I read last night and was instantly like,
no, it gets worse. It gets worse. They moved. They moved. This is hilarious.
It was an exciting few weeks for Chief Information Officer Sven Thompson until the glitch was fixed. It was extremely stressful, he said. He looked stressed, if that's him in that photo. But it was part of a broader push, a quest for digital sovereignty that has made the North German state a test case for Europe as leaders increasingly argue the continent must reduce its dependence on US big tech. This was kind of like all started from Davos, really.
He's got a GitHub sticker on his computer. No, Just as
Yeah, that wouldn't
not
be
GitHub,
allowed.
is it?
It would be Thunderbird and like Bebo and all these weird.
big thunderbolt going down the sky.
The important thing is that we become independent from centralized monopolistic providers, said Thompson. This is what we are striving for, step by step. The idea has been met with skepticism, ridicule, and admiration.
Less people have communication.
They're just breaking
step
the
by
whole
step.
town.
Police, no communication.
Medical. That's probably not a problem, isn't it?
Doctors, no medical.
I don't know who, you don't
no
email the police, but anyway, one German IT blogger compared Schleswig-Holstein to the French comic book hero Asterix and his small village of indomitable Gauls holding out against Roman invaders. Schleswig-Holstein, a coastal region of 3 million people, first discussed ending its reliance on Microsoft about 15 years ago. At the time, the motivation was largely financial, with officials bristling at the cost of licenses and dependence on a single provider. Okay, so I mean, they started.
So they were ready to go. So this wasn't like,
it wasn't in the name of sovereignty. It's because
we're now just going to rip Microsoft out. Like they wanted to do this,
but it wasn't in the name of sovereignty. They were broke.
Yeah,
that's what it's saying here. Like
they couldn't afford. This
is just this is a remodel. Office. Yeah, it's like, God, that didn't work. It's like, why did you do that? Tech sovereignty. Like, stand with us.
This is a pivot.
We got loads of money still. Don't worry about that. So I mean, many European countries are now pursuing various forms of decoupling from US tech. Austria's armed forces have abandoned Microsoft Office. Denmark has announced similar plans, and France has ordered officials to quit Zoom while launching its own secure messaging app to replace WhatsApp or Signal.
Can I jump to the ramifications of this are absolutely hilarious.
Let's hear how
Very
well
laughable.
this works.
So I read the let me start at where they started and then we'll go down. But the switchover began in the earnest last year. The first big move was from Microsoft Office to open source equivalent. That was largely glitch free. The Teams video conferencing software was jettisoned for a program called OpenTalk. Then came email requiring a shift from Microsoft's Exchange and Outlook to open source alternatives, OpenExchange and Thunderbird. The migration involved 44,000 accounts and about 110 million items, including emails and calendar entries. The first 29,000 accounts were transferred without problems. So that's about half, or just over half. Then came the malfunction, which was sporadic but caused serious headaches. Then that put us in the Stone Age, said Michael Burmester, director of one of the region's courthouses and the spokesman for a judges association. Another quote, "We had to go back to using telephone and fax," he added. "We were lucky that there were no major violations of the rule of law." The cause of a problem at the state's data center with a component failing to forward data packets correctly. It was a technical error and misconfiguration, said Thompson. It was not the fault of the new software or the software provider, but it cost us almost 3 weeks. They moved back to fax.
Also, why are they doing this? No one, let's say this goes well. What happens? It's not like Trump's going to be like, oh, what, that tiny little coastal region in Berlin's just or in Germany's like, oh, no, that really got me. I'll get those pesky rebels.
I think it's just purely a mental
personal pride
knowing.
mission.
Yeah, it's a pride thing.
Why are we subjecting these poor people to do that's a pretty big task.
They want it.
I don't think the people want it. I think whoever's leading this little region's probably got some sort of personal agenda going on.
The German state.
They moving 44,000 accounts and about 110 million items. That is a big task for a McKinsey or a Deloitte to do, right? That's not huge, but it's a pretty big, movement of intellectual property, right? You can just assume that, or you can probably bet the fact that, given that they were this is a financial decision as well because they were losing money, they have probably not gone out and hired some expert McKinsey consultants to come and run this whole thing for them because they probably couldn't afford them. So they probably have local council, IT people running this massive transformation project. That's obviously going to go wrong. I mean, we're already saying that it is. It's causing them to, quote, go back to the Stone Age and use fax and telephone. Why? This is just such a ridiculous thing. One, to even say that you're going to do, and two, even attempt, and three, we're seeing why it's ridiculous because...
I'm surprised I'm surprised they tried to put it into force 15 years ago as well.
Ratings for that
Anthropic didn't even exist at that point.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, it just shows, how out the loop can you be? You know,
Indeed.
this is what happens when you go against the tech. Just don't do it. If they wanted this, if they wanted good technology, they should have been investing in it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's my argument.
Indeed. I tell you what is good technology. Levi did the business banking behind with AirWallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all-in-one platform. Go to airwallex.com.
Anyway, enough of tech sovereignty, because it obviously doesn't work. Let's go and check out SpaxeX files for IPO, largest IPO process in history. It's also been confidentially filed. So confidential submission to US regulator sets up the summer listing. This is by George Steer, George Hammond, and Stephen Morris across New York and San Francisco. Elon Musk's rocket company SpaxeX has confidentially filed to go public, firing the starting gun on what is expected to be the biggest initial public offering in history. The Texas headquartered company had this week filed paperwork with the Securities and Exchange Commission for the listing, said two people familiar with the matter. Confidential filings allows companies to advance their listing plans without publicly revealing their financials. SpaxeX last month acquired Musk's loss-making AI startup XAI for $250 billion. I forgot about that. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And we're seeing, like, this is also going to be another block. If we'd gone back literally 6 months.
Yeah.
I would say with 100% certainty that an OpenAI IPO would blow a SpaxeX IPO out of the water. But this sort of
wait, say that again? A SpaxeX IPO would blow...
An OpenAI IPO would blow a SpaxeX IPO out of the water if we were looking like 6 months ago.
Disagree.
But what, 6 months ago?
I don't think so.
You don't think?
No.
I just think like now... We're seeing like,
but it was always like written in the
Cloud.
stars that Musk was going to create this like mega corp, mega power, one singular thing, roll all the X companies into one.
Yeah. But like that was just Musk. Like he says
all of
in
the
his
all of the X software engineer employees are now data aerospace engineers.
Yeah. I mean, like that was obviously like a thing that people thought was going to happen, but it didn't really become real until these things started happening, I think. And like if you look at, I don't know, what we've seen is like a resurgence, not the last 6 months, but last year maybe, of this investment flowing into like space tech in general. It's not just SpaceX anymore. Like even we covered Star Cloud's 170 million Series A the other day with Philip. We had who are those two dudes that were really cool, really young? Icarus Robotics, decreasing the labor cost in space. Like those are two 17-year-old kids doing that at the time. Or maybe they were a little bit older, I can't remember. But that wasn't a thing like a year ago, really. Like it wasn't, but I think there's been this sort of global or nationwide, or even I guess like within the tech bubble as well, sort of shift back to the fact that one, space isn't actually that far away, like financially, strategically, on like a time horizon for population. And like the Artemis launch is a sort of byproduct and marketing stunt for the... I'm not saying that's what it is, but it raises awareness about like technology and space and that combination. So I think that can only just feed into bolstering the price of a SpaxeX IPO.
Yeah.
So now I think with those recent developments, it is, I wouldn't be sure what would, raise at a higher valuation potentially. I wouldn't be able to like confidently say it would be one or the other. Whereas I think like maybe 6 months, maybe 6 months is too short of a time horizon. Maybe a year ago, you could be like, definitely OpenAI. That is my argument.
I think 6 months ago the narrative behind OpenAI was way more positive than it is now. Kind of Samar, I think, is waking up and just like getting punched in the face left, right, and center with everything that's going on. And his main competitor Anthropic is shipping like absolute crazy. His other main competitor has the world's biggest ads business in the world. Has the world's biggest ads business and therefore has all the cash in the world to go and play with. His other competitor,
Dennis.
His other competitor.
You don't like that?
His other competitor, Grok, is being rolled up into this megacorp and going public.
Grok isn't allowed in the conversation.
It's a tough one, and so I think just fine. They've literally just raised hundreds of billions of dollars at an almost $1 trillion valuation, the biggest private round ever. Obviously, very highly, a lot of circular capital going on within Microsoft and Nvidia. A lot of it is like is tranches as well, so it's not just cash up front. So I think bullish on the fact that SpaxeX will have a bigger IPO. Like, yeah, I think there's a case there.
Bigger than OpenAI
Yes.
when it does happen.
Yes.
But I'm realizing now as well, like if
It's going to happen in the summer.
raised,
It'll happen in the summer.
they've privately raised $1 trillion basically. They've basically already done it.
Mm.
You know, like I guess the only reason the chances would be low is because they've just done it.
Yeah.
Why would they need to go and do it?
True.
You know, I think that's the only reason that like, when I first saw it, I was like, this is mispriced. But then I'm realizing they've just raised $1 trillion basically.
True.
They don't need to go and raise more
True.
trillions. But yes, we have that to look forward to, which is going to be very interesting. Will you be buying?
Yeah.
You will?
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that Tesla just gets merged into this somehow.
It will.
And then but I wouldn't know how that would work. I own loads of Tesla stock, so surely I'm getting a little juice there or something.
I actually have no idea how that would work.
Never even looked into that properly. Like when there's a merger.
Yeah.
I've no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I have no idea. We'll
I
have
just
to
think
look into it.
surely
We'll have to
good
look
thing.
into it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
good. Isn't
Don't
like
wanna
both
lose,
businesses are ripping. Like, there's no,
Happy days.
you know, it's not like they're being merged because one needs to save the other.
This one sucks.
So all good in the hood. But yeah, pretty cool. Should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
I wanted to. I know you love Demis so much, and we've got the book behind us.
I love Dennis.
There was an Economist article, a little biography of Mr. Demis Hassabis. If you go to our notes and you go to all the end, it says just Demis.
You've not even capitalized the D. For
Who is Demis
So
Hassabis,
disrespectful.
the man behind Google DeepMind? I think it's worth reading this out. This is a pretty short biography, but a very good one. And it was released very recently, yesterday, and it's very, very good. So I think we should read it. A new biography examines a crucial figure in the AI race. This is off the back of the book behind us. Called The Infinity Machine by Sebastian Mallaby, who we have on the show next week. Let me read it through. Can we get this up on the screen? Can we get
I can't. Because
okay, just leave it there.
Yeah, cool.
Just leave it there. The
So
great
here's
man
the book.
theory of history,
Very
so long
excited
disfavored, has had something of a renaissance under Donald Trump. It has been finding purchase in Silicon Valley too, where the leaders of the big AI labs see themselves as performing almost godlike acts of creation. But can a person truly direct the course of technology's development, or are even the greatest of them merely players in its inexorable progress? That question underlines Sebastian Mallaby's The Infinity Machine, a biography of Demis Hassabis, the co-founder of Google DeepMind. If OpenAI's Sam Altman is the wily dealmaker, Anthropic's Dario Amodei is the ethically conflicted innovator, and xAI's Elon Musk, then Mr. Hassabis, in Mallaby's account, is the selfless visionary genius. He is decent and public. He is decent and public-spirited and wants the best for humanity. His life mission of developing artificial general intelligence, though it borders on the messianic, is a quest for not for power or money, but for knowledge, a machine capable of solving all of science to the benefit of humankind. Mr. Mallaby acknowledges that this saintly depiction may be difficult to swallow. Still, unlike Greg Koh's hagiographic film, The Thinking Game, this is a sincere attempt to discern whether one man's ethical principles can survive contact with the cutthroat commercial imperatives of the AI race. Got two more paragraphs. AGI was a slippery term even when Hassabis founded DeepMind in 2010, when Shane Legg and Mustafa Suleyman. Mr. Suleyman is a board member of The Economist parent company. Mr. Legg, who helped popularize the term but did not coin it, as the book claims, resisted the notion that general intelligence must mean human-like. He argued that an AI that mimicked a human, as per the famous Turing test, would be suspect. A general intelligence was simply one that could solve a wide array of problems, however alien its inner workings. However, Mr. Hassabis with his neuroscience PhD, thought that the human must at least serve as a guide. But they agreed on the basic plan. DeepMind would make AI that could teach itself to play games. The premise was simple. Gameplay requires problem solving. So does science. So the more games an AI can learn to play, the more general its intelligence becomes, and the more capable of its attacking it is of tackling other problems. The teach itself bit was crucial. AI that depended on human instruction would never be able to surpass human ingenuity. The machines had to devise their own strategies by trial and error, a technique known as reinforcement learning. That is a little bit from The Economist. Go and read the article; it's super good. And yeah, it's a kind of article off the back of the book that's been released.
Which is awesome. I'm only like 50 pages in. But it's crazy how much of the early, like his early days at the gaming studio, I'm forgetting the name, but working with like Magnu, like they were working on like very early AI related themes within their like theme park, the game that Demis helped them manufacture. And then it was a hit game. And then they offered him 500 grand to stay and not go back to Cambridge to a 17-year-old. And he said no to the 500 grand, which would be about 1.7 million in today's cash. So like, an early sign of how much he's just focused on the mission and not the money, which is a good thing, obviously. Anyway, we can get into that more with Sebastian next Tuesday when we have him on the show, which we're very excited for. Startup April Fool's Award. I'm going to share my screen for this one. But the award goes to Tyler Denk. Tyler Denk over there at Beehive has won the Startup April Fool's Award from ETN. I'm going to be 100% honest. I actually did not think this was an April Fool's joke initially, but then Luke mentioned that it was released on April Fool's.
I mean, you can only... I feel like it is. But
no, it must be. It must be. It has to be. It surely is. Anyway, Tyler says, being single again just unlocked a new acquisition channel. This is him talking to someone on Hinge with the sort of like the intro. So I'd fall for you if you'll read my blog. Tyler says, drop the link. The girl replies with a link to Substack. And then Tyler suggests, hey, you should move that to Beehive with a smiley face. Like how he's gone analog with the smiley face. He's not used emojis. He's gone for the old parenthesis close bracket.
I think Austin Reef's comment was so good. He's like, really great way to tell the world you're single, 10 out of 10.
That's quite funny.
Yeah, that's so good.
But yeah, he's unlocked a new acquisition channel, Hinge. So for all those growth marketers out there,
the guy is the growth machine.
Your customers are also living on Hinge. Just remember that. So if you want to spread that net, make sure you're capturing as much of the TAM as possible. Do not forget about these alternate marketing channels. Don't just focus on LinkedIn or cold email. You should also be trying to reach your customers on their dating profiles as well. So round of applause to Tyler over at Beehive for this. It
Guest of the show, friend of the show.
Yeah, previous guest. We had a great chat with him actually. But well done, Tyler.
Indeed. Moving on, shall we move on to the next story? Before we do that, the infrastructure for the on-chain world. Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org. Let's go. Let's move.
Yeah, this one's insane. I only saw this yesterday. This is a Daily Mail article, so I won't share the screen because I'm just getting absolutely peppered with ads right now. But wow, I'm not joking. There are literally a million adverts
every single time we open a Trad Media article.
I'm drowning in gambling advert, Mr. Vegas. I'm getting world-class care in London at the Cleveland Clinic here. I'm getting...
Oh, wow. I've just gone on the article and I was looking at these shorts 2 days ago. They've just popped up.
Doing a great job. We love to see it.
Targeted ads. Love it.
Yeah, mine are all mine are all gambling adverts. So I don't know what's going on there.
I'm getting short adverts. I'm going to click on it just to get them.
Anyway, guides take. So this is Everest guides secretly poisoned climbers to trigger costly helicopter rescues as part of a £15 million scam. So guides taking tourists up and down Mount Everest have allegedly been secretly lacing climbers' food to trigger costly helicopter rescues as part of a £15 million insurance scam, according to a new investigation. Poor weather and patchy communications at the world's tallest mountain have allegedly led to a cottage industry that sees shifty pilots, guides, and doctors charging insurance companies for services not rendered. According to Kathmandu Post, the fake rescue racket works by getting a climber to stage a medical emergency. A helicopter is then called and taken to a nearby hospital. An insurance claim is then filed that bears little resemblance to what actually happened. Nepal's Central Investigation Bureau, the CIB, identified 2 ways this scam is manufactured. The first involved tourists who don't want to walk all the way back down. Treks can take up 2 weeks. I know,
it's always the lazy people.
I know. Get the lazy people out of here. Treks can take up to 2 weeks on foot, so guides tell climbers to fake a medical emergency so that a helicopter comes. But the second method is far more troubling. It involves tricking climbers. It involves tricking climbers into thinking they're having a medical emergency. Above 3,000 meters altitude, sickness is common. Symptoms include headaches, tingling in the body's extremities, and a drop in blood oxygen saturation. In most cases, this can be resolved with rest, hydration, or a gradual descent. But Nepal's CIB says that some guides and hotel staff are told to terrify tourists into thinking that an evacuation to a hospital is the only thing that will save them. If this doesn't work, investigators found that in some instances, guide tried to induce symptoms by giving tourists suffering mild altitude sickness tablets and excess water. In at least one case, baking powder was mixed into tourists' food to make them physically unwell. Rescuers will try and do this to multiple people to maximize the amount of money they will get.
That's bonkers.
You know, there are innovative ways to make money all over the world.
Indeed.
That's my conclusion from this. I mean, obviously, it's awful. It's committing mass fraud and preying on the vulnerable once they're 3,000 meters in the air. But you know, that is an efficient way to bring some money through the door.
Indeed. Anyway, before we have our first guest on, leave outdated business banking behind with AirWallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Anyway, I think we have our first guest in. Andreas, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good to see you again, sir.
You too, guys. How are you? How have you been?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. It's good to see you again. You're looking very well.
3 kids, man. I'm not very well, but thanks for saying
it. What's been going on since we last caught up? When was this? Probably
September last year.
Yeah, 6 months maybe.
The building shit. Yeah, we've been growing 10% a week, which is nice, all organic. It seems a lot of people are building in healthcare. It got hot all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been all about trying to ensure that we have clinical grade models that are trustworthy for all the builders out there wanting to apply AI to their workflows or apps or whatever. And then we've been jazzing with a ton of customers to get really, really good at converting unstructured data into structured data, which we had a big launch on this week.
Amazing. Let's talk about the launch. We were briefed very slightly. Symphony for medical coding. It's also sort of rivaling Anthropic and OpenAI in some areas for this particular use case with up to 23% accuracy recorded. Could you maybe just give us the rundown of what is this sort of new release of Symphony, and then maybe a little bit more about the product and how it's comparing to these other models?
Yeah, so our cornerstone model is called Symphony. That's our main model. It's clinical grade, built for life science and healthcare. And medical coding is for lay people an opaque, weird thing that often doesn't make sense. But the basic idea is that obviously there is all of us going through healthcare. We have similar but different situations. And for healthcare to make sense of all of it, they code us. That means we're associated with one or many codes, and these codes decide who pays, where do we go, what happens, how we register. And there's 70,000 codes in the biggest registry. And that means it's a little bit of a needle in the haystack, and the codes change rapidly every year. And mistakes on coding alone in the US is a $36 billion problem a year, and downstream is more than $400 billion that's associated with coding problems. So medical coding is just how we get healthcare to work. And predicting is known as sort of one of the hardest reasoning problems we have in healthcare, and it's been part of what Anthropic took to market in January, as well as OpenAI and many others. And our thesis is that first and foremost, we're not living in the dream of the singular GPT model or the singular Claude model. Everybody is orchestrating, and we're orchestrating for healthcare. And we believe that the right way of really solving problems at a level that is fair to a market like healthcare is getting really close and really, really specific. So we have trained for many, many years. We've done one of the largest clinical studies ever, 1.8 million patients.
Wow,
We've published research. And what it proves on top of it is we can build this agentic system that actually codes way more accurately and up to as you said, 25% more accurate than OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Amazon, Microsoft. I could go on.
Can you talk to us
Congrats.
broadly? Yeah, congrats. Yeah. Can you talk to us broadly about what does the future of healthcare look like and medicine look like with just agentic AI? What does it look like?
So I think the tenet everybody knows and says, like, we have an admin problem in healthcare. We're doing so much administration, and every solution is sort of this zero-sum thing where it's about bringing down administration. We don't believe that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is that we all should just have a much broader idea of what health is. And we just want to consume way more of it. So our generations, when I get as old as my dad, he's just down there and he's 80 and he consumes quite a bit of healthcare. I'm going to be so terrible and consume so much healthcare. And I probably want people for most of it. And I probably want it way earlier and way more diverse and way more specific. So the basic tenet is not just bringing down admin, it's exploding the total availability of care. And to do that, we need agents because we're simply not going to be enough people no matter what. And we're not going to be enough specialization no matter what. So what we're trying to is powering the total agentic explosion. And that's why we've built an agentic framework built only for a sector like this. Not like LangChain is great, but we believe you need more governance. And we train our own models, we tune our own models, we build medical coding from the ground up, we do a ton of research. And the basic tenet is build something that is good enough, not just to trust, but at some point govern and potentially insure.
That's awesome. It's so good to hear, like, we have a bunch of founders on the show all the time and they're all doing great things, but it's always really nice to hear something that's like specifically related to humanity and like helping drive that forward from like a medical or biological sense. Within that as well, though, we've seen like a lot of companies get like, there's been somewhat of a reaction to merging, mainly from non-native tech individuals that are merging AI with like healthcare. What do you think most people are getting wrong about biology, medical, pharma, and AI? Because I feel like some people are somewhat standoffish, whereas like, I don't know, people who are native to the space are very pro it.
We released a report along with our new Symphony for Medical Coding model, where we looked at these coding rules. And in every country, we have different codes because people live different lives. So like in Germany, they have a medical code, which is attacked by a wild boar, like the big pig, right? That's pretty fucking weird. Sorry for my French, right? But the ultimate point of healthcare is that's associated with quite a lot of incidents. Like they even a boar stole a laptop. That's a different discussion. In the US, they spend $12 billion a year on deer accidents. $12 billion. I assume there's been a couple of startups on your show that has a smaller market than $12 billion.
Yeah.
So my point is just healthcare is so huge and it is so specific that the main mistake we're seeing is that people come in, especially like non-healthcare people, they come in and say, oh, I'm building for healthcare, or I'm building for life science, I'm building for payers. I'm just like, you go at it. Yeah. And then at some point find your wedge because it's such a big market. We have one of the fastest growing startups that's building on our API framework right now. It's a startup that's building just for the prosthetics industry.
Okay.
That's pretty specific, but they're growing like weeds.
Yeah.
No way. So it's like the advice is like, it's so, you can build a multi-billion-dollar company within a niche of a niche, almost, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that what we're also seeing here is with a couple of trends we see a lot is that when we went to market back in the day and we told doctors, hey, AI is going to be a thing, they were like, yeah, maybe, but like you can't do it if IBM can't do it. And we're still here, IBM. But we were skeptical and was something like AI was a software product you bought from vendors. And today we have doctors vibing on our platform.
Yeah.
So the ultimate point I just see is there's a compression of availability and lack thereof of software and reasoning engines. And as that happens, we'll be able to do more and more and more. And people who sit inside the space, they see so much opportunity, even in these small pockets, right? So I think there's going to be an absolute Cambrian explosion of startups. And I think many of them are going to be built from the inside, and many of them are going to be VC grade, fast growing, billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
Do you think, because you guys are creating the agentic models, do you think there's going to be more, in the next 3, 5, whatever years, that there'll be more kind of like companies on the foundation layer in different niches, and then companies built off the back of those who are more, on the application layer, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is so much VC logic around. Like I remember like half a year ago, it was like, oh, there's no like money to be made infra and model layer. It's being consumed by OpenAI and Anthropic. And I love these companies. I am an avid user, but like we can still beat you guys. So there's obviously room for more. I just think there is something that we need to sort of consider if it's a scaling law problem or it's a domain law problem. Okay. Healthcare has a lot of domain law problems, which is there is certain things where more horsepower won't get you faster through the track. So like medical grade compliance, it's not because we lack better models to solve medical grade compliance. It's a way of building your software, which is unique, which has 100, if not 1,000 engineering decisions under the hood. Yeah. So I think there's absolutely room in many, many industries where there is domain laws to build at the foundation layer. If you want to go all the way to metal, shout out to our partners at NVIDIA, all the way up, right? If you want that and that's your game, there's stuff to be made in many vertical industries with domain laws. I'm thinking military or life science or whatever. And then again, there is so many applications to be built. The whole idea of software not existing in the future just looks different. There's going to be much more software.
There was a word you mentioned a few minutes ago, trust, which I think is like it's important in most of these domains. Like typically when we're speaking to people that come on the show, I think it usually comes up the most when we're talking about like stable coins or crypto or letting agentic, like workflows into like old school financial institutions. But I think it's probably most prevalent for this particular industry, right? And I think you have to win the trust of both like the enterprise customers or the people that you're working with from an enterprise standpoint, but also the trust of the consumers that will be on the receiving end of this technology. How do you go about that? Because I think naturally people may be standoffish at first. They have to learn that this thing is good for them. Like, how do you go about educating these people that you work with?
Yeah, and God, we as a company have a lot to learn, and we are learning all the time. And I guess the industry is very nascent still in that respect, right? There are certain parts of the consumer segment, like I imagine you guys, they're just consuming so much AI. And then there is a large SWAT who's like, maybe we're still on the sort of like anti-tech, like low tech kind of like polluting my life vibe. So like in the spectrum, there is a long way to go even in younger generations, right? So how do we do it? We obviously, we think a lot about research. We think a lot about transparency. I think a sort of fun little notice is just if you look around the big labs around the world, obviously we're huge fans of the likes of DeepMind, but we're generally interested to see that other big labs who started researching and publishing a lot is relative to the total amount of resources they have now, which is way more people, way more employees. They're researching less and publishing less. I think that's combine that with sort of the biblical language coming out of certain San Francisco labs of like, we know the truth. We will like give you some AI when you're ready for it. Yeah. It feels like a troubling point in time if we want to create more trust. So our take is like, we try to like build as much in public we can, share our mistakes, build really fast, and obviously offer as much transparency as we can, and then optimize for the high-end compliance bars. Like being born in Europe is like, for some respects, perfect because the compliance bar is pretty high.
Yeah. Can you maybe walk us through? I know when we last spoke, you guys were at a different stage, but I'd love to know like the founder story, the 0 to 1 with this in particular, because it's a very hard vertical to crack into. It's not like I'm going to vibe code up some sort of like note-taking app, or like this is a very real thing with problems and attractiveness on either side. What's the 0 to 1 story for Corti? Like, when did you start this and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so the story, my co-founder was building secret stuff at Apple that drives after his PhD. He's a professor of machine learning and had a vision about autonomous systems. And I had built another startup we had sold, which was in healthcare too. So we met over this thesis about sort of how do we solve supply demand in healthcare? Ultimately, we believe autonomous systems. So our seed round was on context-aware language models, and this is like almost a decade ago. Yeah. Then we spent 4 years in research. Popped out of the woodwork in COVID, found out that hospitals were running most of stuff on-prem and nobody wanted on-prem APIs for AI. Built a quite decent API shop and learned a lot about sort of what our customer looked like, and luckily got more and more customers wanting to run our infra as cloud got kosher and everybody was using Zoom and the market changed, right? So we've slowly but surely sort of spiraled around our ethos, which has always been sort of, we believe we could be a great foundation for others to build on. We're precision technology, we're infrastructure. But yeah, the market obviously took many tumbles, as we've seen, like Microsoft Nazi chatbots to, obviously they weren't, but people accused them of it, and to Google speech launching, to the ChatGPT moment. So it's sort of been many years in the making. Our basic tenet is that this market is very young. It's there's going to be $100 billion ARR company just building infra for healthcare and life science, maybe 2, maybe 3. And we believe the vast majority of use cases that's going to be done is going to be agentic, and they're not ever been built before. So yeah, it's very, very early days still, although it's felt like we've been researching it and been at it for a while.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of breaking into these, kind of countrywide organizations for them to be using your models specifically, how does that work necessarily? I imagine, as you mentioned, building from Europe, there's a ton of regulation, and it's very, there's lots of different regulations and all that kind of stuff. How is it breaking into these kind of countrywide organizations that are, billions of dollars are flowing through, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, billions of whatever data points are there? What is that like?
Yeah, so I think our sort of our reasoning, our thinking has always been that we are best with builders. So there is so many fantastic people who have great big deploy bases, 10-year tenders, or are just the fastest moving startups out there who really know their space well. So we don't come and lecture. We really try to stay clear of that part, but they are really great at breaking into some of these systems. Okay. Obviously, we directly partner with some of them too, to have design partners and co-build, but mostly we work through builders, right? So many of the biggest builders in healthcare are training something, building something, or going live with something on Cordy, or have, and many of the coolest startups too. So we're just very lucky we get to sort of ride that journey with them. And when they didn't have problems of something that doesn't work, our tenet is obviously like, AI is a very moving target, right? So we need to deploy every week at a faster pace than anybody else in our vertical, at a higher quality with more transparency. So what we want to be judged on is our builders who's breaking into these crazy organizations. Do they get armed with better ammunition faster? Are we more reflexive than anybody else? And do we go further for them? So that's sort of how we hold ourselves accountable.
And we recently just saw, Legora hit 100 million ARR. I want to know what's the speed like in the medical industry? How quick is this industry moving to adopt AI and everything else kind of in between, and all the functionalities around it?
Yeah, so we're holding our cards a little longer for good reasons. But I'll be back here and talk more about that at some point. But I can talk generally about sort of the pace of this. And I think Menlo Ventures did a fantastic study to show how much AI adoption is happening in healthcare versus other industries, including law, and it's happening at a higher pace. So I think
interesting.
I saw yesterday, I think it was Cleveland Clinic said they're going to spend $1.6 billion this year on AI alone. And this is a hospital group, right? Fantastic, big one. But my point is just there is a lot of money here because the ability to reason over unstructured problems at scale is so real in healthcare. Yeah. So yeah, I think we have Heidi published, I think yesterday they did 50 mil now. There's been many startups doing great. And I think there's a ton of companies we tend to forget who's doing 50, 100, 200, $1 billion a year, who's like been around for a while, but they're going nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so interesting.
Cool. Where can we sell? I was going to say, where can we send people? Where can we direct people? We've got about 20 seconds left. Where can we to?
Anybody who's a clinician, who's a startup, who's a builder, who's a product manager, come to Cordy.ai, start building AI, ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'll give you more credits if you need it. We have an entire clinical innovation team, doctors and nurses who will help you validate. We have an entire onboarding team who build with you, and we have tons of tools for you. So Cordy.ai, come hang out and check out docs.
Dude, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
You're a legend.
Enjoy.
Always good to have
you.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Amazing stuff. Before we have a next guest on, Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Anyway, next on the show, we have Frederick, CEO at Cardano Foundation. Frederick, can you hear us?
You too.
Likewise.
Frederick, welcome to the European Technology Network. It's an absolute pleasure to host you. How's your day going?
Amazing. I saw you guys always have a lot of baseball caps, and my baseball cap of choice today is the REI.
Nice. Let's do.
It's probably a bit more colorful than what you guys are having up there.
What do we have here?
I'll get my. Yeah, that's very colorful. I've got a boring black one.
I'll do a green one.
Yeah,
This is
what's
cool.
going on, man? That's what
Nice.
you're wearing, when you're doing good stuff, right?
Exactly.
We got 2 ETFs live yesterday. We got the financial transparency report out today. All cryptographically verified using LDIs. Big 5 auditor goes in and does a full architecture review of all of our transactions on chain using machine learning to do that, right? This is a world's first new one, right? So this is going to change the way we trust in numbers. I think that's really exciting, actually.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are on fire. For the stream, I'd love to, maybe if you can introduce yourself, and then I guess the Cardano Foundation is a separate entity, obviously, to the coin itself. It's a separate entity, and you are leading that entity. So maybe just for the listeners at home, could you explain like your position and also like the separation of the two and what the Cardano Foundation is as well?
Sure, super happy to do so. So the Cardano Foundation is a Swiss non-for-profit foundation with 110 employees, and we are one of the largest contributors to the Cardano ecosystem, which is the world's largest DAO. And we manage around 7 to 8 million inhabitants who all have a digital ID, who can all vote on chain. We actually came together as a community and wrote a constitution. I mean, who's done that in the last 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And we verified that on chain. That means that we have universities all around the world who's looking at social studies and looking at how voter apathy and how democracy is shaping up, specifically right now where we see a lot of changes in the geopolitical landscape. And we're the only one who has all of that on chain. And in terms of assets, we have a reserve on around 9 billion ADA, and we have an active treasury of 1.5 billion ADA, right? And then we have a monetary and a fiscal policy, so the voters come together, they select politicians, we have quadratic voting, right? And we disperse then money on chain in order to make the world a better place to live. We think about it as blockchain for good.
That's really cool. Really cool.
I was going to say, no other blockchain foundation is doing this. No other blockchain foundation of the size of you guys are doing this, right? Talk to us about the importance of the report and about what you guys are doing, because, for the adoption of blockchain, because it's, literally you're the only one in the world.
Well, where I stand is that if a blockchain foundation doesn't use blockchain in their operations, why should everybody else doing it, right? Yeah. And what I hear a lot of people, they're coding and they're deploying and they believe in it, but they don't use it, right? And if you don't use it, what is the value proposition? Why did we do it in the first place, right? So what we've basically been doing for the last 5 years is we had a dream, and the dream was, how do you change trust in financial numbers at large? There's so much happening, and we heard from the colleague before talking about AI and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And the cost and the attack vectors has just incrementally gone to zero, right? So every brand is constantly under attack, and nobody can trust anything you see online, right? Or offline, for a matter of say. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we basically we posted all of our financial transactions. That includes my salary, includes our rental cost, includes our treasury from the foundation. So it's close to 300 million Swiss francs. So our full portfolio, including all trades, are posted on chain. And then we posted the P&L and the balance sheet. And then we use something which is really unique. So if you think about the crypto market today, it's about $3 trillion, right? So it should be higher, but it's $3 trillion, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at TradFi is closer to $380 trillion. And TradFi is using one digital identity standard called the legal entity identifier. And this is off-chain, used all around the world today, right? This is how you verify yourself at an institution when you trade today. And we basically had the auditors, including ourselves, using that offline digital identity anchored on Cardano, saying, I am Grant Thornton, the world's largest, fifth largest auditor. I'm sitting in Zurich. I looked at all transactions, including the architecture, and I concluded that that is the correct way of doing the P&L and the balance sheet. And that basically means that they had the ability to export all of these transactions, run machine learning on it, not AI. It's very important. There's a distinct difference between foundational models, right? Which you probably have other guests speaking about, but we can touch about that as well because it's important from an investment perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So they ran machine learning on that, and then they came back with a different audit scope. So what they saw is that with 50% less resources, they can audit the complete scope of our finances instead of just a spot check. And they can then put that trust on chain, which make everybody in the whole world have access to my P&L balance sheet and all transactions, and they can see if I'm trying to cheat them. And then they put that trust anchor in there with that digital identity, which is how the world is trading today.
Sure. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that level of financial transparency is. I mean, it's been at the core thesis of I guess like crypto as a whole. It's all about sort of like democratizing, decentralizing transparency. So it's nice to see that you guys are leading that.
Yeah, well, I think everybody has been speaking about it. Everybody is building slides about it. Everybody has a view on it, but we're doing it. And I think I hate those sentences, we think a lot about, or, this is how you should do it, right? I like sentences on everything I say in this podcast. You can go on the Cardano blockchain, you can verify that, and you can see that this is real. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, putting the money where the mouth is, and we love that here on ETN. There was something you mentioned earlier that I've never heard this before. The Constitution, Cardano Foundation Constitution. Can you walk us through how a foundation like the Cardano Foundation why would they build a constitution or create one, and how do you even go about doing that?
So the tenets of Cardano was that we believe that if you think about Ethereum was about how do we make a better Wall Street, right? So, T+0 settlements, atomic swaps, taking out middlemen, making things more efficient, right? Going towards what we see with Polymarket, which is an amazing platform, right? So the tenets of Cardano was, what if we bring that to society? What if society had better tools? What if we had different financial systems? What if the 2 billion people who do not have a passport or any kind of identity, they could get access to the services we take for granted when we access a computer, or we go to the hospital, or we pay taxes, right? And on the other side, in the Western world, what would happen if a bank or an institution had access to 2 billion more people because they suddenly had an identity? So Cardano was built on the tenets that this was a platform for the population of Earth. And we feel very strongly that if it is a platform for the Earth, and not just for the few who does asymmetric DeFi trading, or the few who does meme coins or whatever, but for the world, it has to give economic opportunities for everyone, but it also has to give the power for everyone to be a part of it. Now, many blockchains has failed over time because there's always one leader who has a special key. He can change the rules. He jumps from time, he goes up and says, we're going to do it differently, right? So we felt it was very important that the transition from the leaders of Cardano giving away the power to the people, you needed to have a governance framework which is written by the people. And we brought people together, several thousand actually, right, from all across the world. And we had them to write a constitution, and then we expressed the majority of the constitution into smart contracts on chain, which means that they're immutable but also transparent, which is kind of really interesting out of two reasons. The first thing is you cannot express everything binary. So we got some hard learnings. We already are working on the Constitution version 2 and 3 and so on to be more specific, right? But the other part is that I thought this would slow us down dramatically because you have all these committees and voting. And so, can you go with the speed you need in technology, right?
Yeah.
What actually is happening is that some of the really large banks, like the Bank of International Settlement, or some of the tier 1 banks, or some of the large institutions out there, they were like, finally, somebody wrote down the governance rules and expressed that in code on how we interact with the distributed, decentralized platform. Because before that, it was just like, how do I participate? What happens if they don't support my product or my services in the next 10 years? What if I need to have a new service, a new way of, a new product or something like that? Or if you integrate with Apple, right? What if they do a new type of phone or new hardware? How is that supported by the blockchain?
Yeah.
And if we go even further, right? So what's happening in the US, right, is which by the way is doing really well. We can speak about Genius and Clarity, right? But what's happening in the US right now is that privacy is really important, right? And specifically guardianship for kids. So what we were able to prove is that we can use cryptographic evidence to protect kids that they are not being groomed. What I'm specifically speaking about is in Utah, they have something called the state endorsed digital identity scheme, which is a new set of rules that actually change the local constitution there to amend towards saving kids, right? And we are now a couple of vendors still in there who's bidding on this for this summer, right? And what I'm so happy about is that even if we lose as Cardano, The two other vendors are also using Carry and AC/DCs, which is where these LEIs are built on, which is incorporated with systems like Cardano. So you don't actually need to be on Cardano, but the ability to safeguard kits from being sold in Web 2, right, from the biometrics, I find is one of those use cases who really open your eyes and say there is so much more than crypto. Crypto is important. It's great. But I sold my soul to Web 2 many years ago when I got my first Facebook account, and they have my credit card, they have everything, right? I don't want my kids just because they play an awesome game to sell their soul yet. They have to do it as a conscious choice. So now what we are seeing is that we have everything from social good to economic opportunities in Africa to clear framework, which allows, in the US, for instance, that under the Clarity Act and the Genius Act, that the non-TradFi use cases on Cardano is going to go 100x in the next couple of years, right? They're all just waiting on getting that approval. And the new SEC and CFTC clarification around Cardano, plus also what the president was talking about in terms of how he sees ADA, right? Plus what we see coming out with the ETF, right, and other things. It's going to allow a lot of enterprise adoption in the non-TradFi area in the US because, well, frankly, they're a little bit more tech savvy than we are in Europe, right? And then we're going to see Europe playing follow up on that, right? So I think the floodgates for the non-TradFi has just opened widely with this LEI, with these kind of digital identities, with these kind of clarifications. So that's just really amazing.
It's so refreshing to hear. I mean, use cases beyond like the current or what I guess a non-native individual to the industry would assume. It's nice to hear that there are other ones around there. A question that you've slightly alluded to already, but I'd love to get your opinion on. Why is it these sort of broadened use cases that is bringing in the attention of maybe more official or regulated bodies to the market? I feel that there's been a shift, especially in the last year, from traditional institutions or even political institutions, as you kind of say, led by the US, to adopt this technology. I think would be a more appropriate term. Why is that? Why do you think we're seeing that?
I think a part of it is also that we have oversold blockchain. If you go back 3-4 years ago, some of the use cases we were talking about, the public permissionless blockchains were not able to deliver on that. But now we are. Secondly, most of these large companies, including nation states, they said, all of this is amazing, but let's do it in a private database, R3 Corda and those kind of permission spaces. And they spend so much money figuring out that that's just simply not, it doesn't, the economics doesn't add up, right? You get slower, you get more committees, you get more repos. It just costs you more and you don't get the added benefit. And what sort of changed now is that, for instance, we wrote something called the Risk Management Framework together with Oliver Wyman, and Avalanche is another great blockchain, right? Where we actually were talking about risk mitigation for non-financial risks and how you can use that. And we are only able to kind of contribute to that right now because we understand current regulation. We have much more mature blockchains. We've been through this hype cycle of blockchain, which left the only thing standing was crypto and a couple of, thematic, things coming up. And then I also think that the world's geopolitical situation has changed. So I'm in Europe right now, right? And Europe is very much aware that they're sitting with Chinese networks. And they're sitting with US software, and they're sitting and saying, okay, actually, we don't supply any of that ourselves. So self-sovereignty as a nation state and independence around the supply chains. The first hit we got was COVID. And out of COVID, we got, stuff like digital product passport and other regulation, which is really aiming at using blockchain. And the next hit we got now is this, national self-sovereignty. And it's not just Europe. I mean, the US has the same regarding a lot of, Chinese networks or Asian networks, right? Every country is sort of looking at how do I actually fit in a new world order? And there are public permissionless blockchains like Cardano, which is not anchored into one nation state and is supported through multiple types of change. It's just uniquely placed. And if you look at the World Economic Forum's risk report, which is very interesting, right? It's like the top 10 risks, which go, what they think is the biggest disruptors at all in the next 2 years. You have misinformation and disinformation as number 2. And some of the things we're talking about actually with balance sheet and P&L, it's directly the tools you need to counter misinformation and disinformation. It is how you can counter malicious attacks from bot farms and AIs, and how you protect your brand, how you can answer and defend your brand and your business faster, right? And this is a whole new set of use cases which is emerging because the blockchain is more mature. The environment it plays in is less hyped and is more ready for that, and the geopolitical situation has changed. In Germany, really interesting, right? In Germany, we have over 200 companies live on agentic AI, and most of them don't even know they use Cardano. Why is that? It's because an AI who speaks to another AI, what's most important is that you know it's the correct AI. You need an identity for the AI on Cardano. You don't want to expose private information which is not been okayed by the client, right? But you want to have the output, right? So if you're booking a ticket to Tokyo, right, you want to ensure that it optimizes your loyalty points. You want to ensure that it has hotels and Booking.com's history, including your wives and your kids for the last 20 years, right? You want to, there's quite a lot of data you actually don't want to be combined. But to get that user experience from ChatGPT or Gemini, you need it combined.
Yeah.
That's what we think about as verified credentials. The verified credentials is anchored on Cardano. The user don't see that, but it creates a regulatory backlog, or a regulatory audit log, which the regulator can say, yeah, it's within the privacy rules. So these large companies like, Lufthansa or Miles and More or BMW, they can now share information which is regulatory compliant, secured by the blockchain, and one of them will probably have more compute power for the AI, right? So normally an AI who has a lot of compute power and one who has less, they can come with 1 million prompts and will circumvent some of these things. That's what we're scared about with AI. But we put in a micropayment in stable coins on a MiCA compliant stable called USDM, right? So basically every time there's a prompt, there's a small micropayment, which is very interesting, right? Because what that means is that it has an economic cost. That economic cost is the first level principle in crypto. We always said in crypto, everything has to cost something. That's how you cut away some of the noise, right? And then they need a platform to find each other, right? So like a marketplace. And that's also on Cardano. So the user don't see any Cardano. The user just see a fantastic agentic AI model with economic opportunities and all those kind of regulatory compliance, but it's anchored in a public blockchain. And we're talking big brands here, right? And I think there's two worlds emerging. There's a world emerging where you have Skynet coming, right? Get agentic AI and get all these amazing things. One company, one database, all clients, right?
Yeah.
Or you have nation states and communities who have family-owned companies. You have entrepreneurs like the two of you who want to build up something and want to be in control of it, but they need to be able to use emerging technology like agentic AI. And for that, you need safeguards and you need rules, and you don't want to have an asymmetric governance model. You want to have something like Cardano with a constitution behind it where you can't cheat it, and there's not enough money in this world to take it down, right?
Yeah.
And that's the use case, right? So if you want humans for technology, you need Cardano. If you don't care about humans anymore, you just actually need AIs and you can do the rest. Right?
That's so good.
Such a
That's
good
so
way
good. Dude, what a great
finish.
Yeah, what a great answer. Yeah, we're 4 minutes over. Before we let you go.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, that was amazing.
I put on my cap again, huh?
Are you in the mountains at the moment?
Where are
I
you?
am in 2000
Yeah,
meters.
I thought so. I thought I could see a mountain in the back.
Yeah.
Whereabouts are you in the mountains?
I'm in Switzerland in something called Vallis.
Lovely. That's so nice. I wish we were there.
Yeah, we should come visit.
Yeah, you should. You're more than welcome. It's +8 degrees. It's sunshine. A lot of snow. You should come by.
So Luke's a snowboarder.
Are you a skier or a snowboarder?
I'm actually telemark.
Oh, so do you? No way.
This old style Scandinavian way of skiing where you free your heel, free your mind.
My godfather used to telemark, and I thought he was the coolest bloke in the world.
Wait, sorry. What is that?
So it's like cross-country skiing, just with alpine skis and a real mountain. So you can lift your heel, so your heel is not anchored to the ski. So you're just in your toe, and then every turn you do basically like you bend your knee.
Yeah.
So it's like dancing on skis.
Shit like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
That sounds intense.
That's incredible. I want to learn to telemark one day.
So here you got your invite. You should come here, and then I'll give you one lesson in telemark, and we can talk about emerging technology. Huh?
Right.
Indeed.
We will.
We'll hold you to that.
We will actually fly to Switzerland.
That's good stuff, dude. Thank you so much for spending the time. We really appreciate it. Go and enjoy the nice weather, and we'll see you soon.
Certainly. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
See you soon. That was
wow,
awesome.
what a cool chat.
What a legend. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that was
fascinating.
really fascinating conversation. Really fascinating.
And I would love to go and what is it, telemark?
Yeah, so let's get up a video of telemarking. We've got 5 minutes before. If you just go
messed up my trim as well.
Get on YouTube, go find telemarking. While you do that, Framer, build better sites faster, the all-in-one platform for enterprise teams to design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. Go to framer.com/ETN. Are you going to find a video?
Is that like some sort of AI video? They don't really have
You're not
any.
gonna be-
Okay, let me just.
You're going to find one before.
Telemarking. Would
Teller,
be the,
teller, and
yeah.
then marking. Just find a.
It's trying to give me adverts like telemarketing.
Find the YouTube video and get it up.
Telemarketing skiing methods.
There you go.
Let's turn it down a bit. Can we share this? Is that part of your nice?
With Bretton Woods Ski Resort, and I'm going to show you telemark skiing methods.
Let's go.
Telemark skis allow you more
So that's what
choices
Fred's
of how to
doing.
turn than alpine skis because your heel is not attached to the ski. This adds to the fun and challenge of telemark skiing. First, telemark skis turn just like alpine skis, so every
That's
form
normal
of
skiing.
alpine turn
Okay.
can work on telemark skis. Parallel turns, stem Christie turns, and wedge turns all have a place in telemark skiing.
That's all standard, that, yeah?
The main form that distinguishes telemark skiing from alpine skiing is called the telemark turn. The
Telemark turn.
characteristics that distinguish
So you see
telemark turns from
You're
alpine
bending your
turns
knee.
are the lead change and the raised heel on the trailing ski. When making
See
a
what I mean?
telemark turn, your skis should change edges just like in an alpine turn. At the same time, your skis make a smooth lead change, and as you finish the turn, your inside ski should be trailing your outside ski
You get.
with the weight on the ball of your foot.
Huh?
Should we stop now?
Oh, sorry, yeah. I'm genuinely interested.
Well,
So it's
maybe-
more like a technique then.
Greater workout.
Well, I mean, you have to use different skis, and most boots don't allow you to have because it has pins at the front of the toe, and so you have to have not special boots, but you have to have certain
he
boots. So
said
if you
that
go
heels
and
are-
hire some ski boots,
Yeah, they're going to give me like
they'll just give you boots that you just you can clip in from the front.
like clamps.
Whereas telemark skiing, because they have to have that hinge,
Yeah.
you need to have two places for pins to sit. Like, so you clip in
So
like
the
a normal
the
ski
heel
boot,
can
but
lift.
you have two pins in the side, and then you can telemark because you can lift your heel.
Interesting.
So
So it
you
sounds
certain
hard.
bindings. I think it is hard. I've never tried
harder.
it. But it's not very common. Only very good skiers telemark because it's harder.
Impressive.
But
Impressive
it's
stuff.
very impressive. So yeah, mad. Well done, Fred, for telemarking. It's pretty cool. Anyway, leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Next on the agenda, we have 5 minutes before we get Luke Ramsden on the show. Let's jump into the town hall before we end with us
Do we have more news?
yapping. I want to just touch on Matt Clifford. Was this?
Ah, yes.
This wasn't April Fool's. This was on April 1st.
I don't think it was. I'm
I
only
can't
just
imagine he'd
realizing.
like.
See, this is the problem with April Fools.
I hate
you
April
just
Fools.
can't believe anything you see. I don't think Matt would do this.
ETN is against April Fools.
No, we
I
are
am.
for.
Luke at ETN is against April
Yeah,
Fools.
first of all, I'm a huge fan of April Fools.
Well, because Matt posted a LinkedIn post as well.
This is not an April. Matt
I
wouldn't
don't
do
think it
April
is.
Fools.
Anyway, the LinkedIn post goes. So, some personal news. After 15 years of building entrepreneurs first, full-time, today I transition to non-executive chair.
Well, we're sharing the tweet here on
I'm-
the stream.
That's all right.
All right, I thought we'd read the tweet, not the LinkedIn thing.
All right, go on. Read the link to it. Okay, I'm immensely proud of what we built, and it's the same thing. I'm immensely proud of what we built, and I'm so thankful to our team and our investors and our founders for the journey so far. 3 years ago, Alex Bentnick took over as CEO. And since then, the company has gone from strength to strength, as evidenced by EF's recent fundraise at a $1.3 billion valuation. Clearly, we should have done this a long time before. I have been very humble, Matt. I've been incredibly fortunate to have such a force of nature as a co-founder, and I am excited to support her and the team in the new role. I'll be spending a day a week at EF, as well as working closely with Alice, Tom and Johnny Clifford on EF's biggest priorities. I'll be spending time advising our most promising AI founders and companies. I'm looking forward to exploring ways to contribute to UK tech sovereignty, as well as continuing in public service via ARR research in the years ahead. More to come.
Yeah, let's go. Congrats from James Dacombe there. Also Loic getting involved with the send-off.
Oh yeah, nice. Okay, so he said, oh, this is nice actually. I like this. Thanks, Loic. At Fremond _ said, looks like you and Trancreed, who I was talking about earlier at the beginning of the show, were both looking for outlier jokes and ended up finding each other. Typical VC consensus chasing. Matt then replied and said, ha, I'd missed that. Mine is actually for real.
That goes, tragedy comes in many forms.
Indeed.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Very good. What a lovely send off. Shout out to Matt, previous guest of the show. He did amazing work for Join EF, and one of the best interviews we've had on the show. Remembering just how like crystal clear he was able to articulate like incredibly complex things that would typically, I mean, speaking personally, blow me away. As in like how hard they were to understand, but Matt made it very, very easy. So yeah, we wish you well here at ETN, Matt, on all the next steps. It's very exciting.
Nice. Should we talk about Starlink on board Aer Lingus?
Yes, let's definitely do that.
This is quite funny. So Ireland's Travel Trade Network at ITTN_IE says, Aer Lingus has equipped the first aircraft in its fleet with Starlink, delivering ultra-fast, reliable Wi-Fi to customers and marking a major step forward for customer experience. Customers traveling from Dublin to New York, JFK, on flight EL 105 today are the first to experience, or EI 105 today are the first to experience the innovative technology, which enables customers in every cabin to seamlessly access free, fast, reliable internet for streaming, working, gaming, and staying connected. Big up Aer Lingus. Pretty rough for the big man over at Ryanair.
Yeah, surely this is beef.
This is beef. Starlink is now on board Aer Lingus.
Well, I think Aer Lingus was a more of a premium compared to Ryanair. Like Ryanair's thing is like, we suck and we know we suck. That's why it's super cheap. So just roll with it.
Oh, okay. So like the reason we're not bringing this in purely because of,
it's just like you get what you get with us. Like the business model works.
We're not even going to try. Yeah.
I also think the founder just like
seats so people can stand on this stuff.
Yeah. They're which I respect that.
Oh, I respect it too.
I think that's a good thing. They're not trying to pretend.
I'm trying to get to him so he can come on the show.
I've actually been in touch with their global comms director. I say been in touch. Connection request on LinkedIn has been accepted. My message, however, has been ignored. So half in touch, half not in touch. Still waiting for that to come through. But one day, Ryanair CEO is coming on. We will have a lot of good fun.
Indeed. Anyway, before we have Luke on the show, I'd just like to tell you for Base, the infrastructure for the on-chain world. Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org. Anyway, we have Luke Ramsden in the house. Luke, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How's it going?
Loud and clear.
Very good. Very good. Great to see you both. First of all, I'd like to ask about that 3D spin Premier League walkout animation you did of me before I came on. We were all laughing about that in the office.
Oh, you like that?
I like it. We need to get it on our homepage. Get it for everyone in the office.
That is thanks to our wonderful producer, Orla, over here, who cooked that up this morning, I believe. Or maybe was it a last night one on a last night grind session? This morning. Love that. Moving at pace. We'll pass on the thanks. But that's the first time it's been appreciated, actually. So that feels quite good. Orla, happy with that? Very happy from our producer over there. But mate, welcome to the stream. It's great to host you. Where should we start? We have a bunch of questions. Maybe an intro briefly on who you are, what is Architect, and we can go from there for the viewers at home.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, everybody. I am Luke Ramsden. I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer of Architect. Architect is reinventing your website from a one-size-fits-all static page into an interactive experience tailor-made for every visitor. It learns what your visitors like and care about and improves over time. It remembers who they are, ultimately culminating in a microsite-esque thing built for every stakeholder in every deal. So your marketing and sales teams use us to improve their conversion, understand what the prospects are thinking, and ultimately close better deals faster.
First question off the bat is, what do you think the future of AI personalization looks like? You guys are, one of the companies, I think the first company that we've had on the show that is kind of leaning as heavily into it as you guys are. And it's a super interesting thing, offering customers, a different experience, with what they're doing, who they are, all of that kind of stuff. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is the future of personalization using AI?
Yeah, so I think people's attention span is getting shorter. I think short form video did one thing, but AI is like a whole other ball game, right? With people's attention spans. Like, people are used to just asking a question and getting an answer now. No one really wants to spend time reading landing pages or brochure sites or trying to understand what you do. And I don't blame them. Like, we've all been to websites and looked at them and been like, I have no idea what this company does. Like, I don't know what this product does. Why should I care? They just want their question answered. And I also think with the way, we talk about software later, but the way software is going, I think software products are getting more complex. They're getting more ambitious. They are getting wider as well. And that makes the messaging harder. It makes, internal sales across different stakeholders within a business that you're selling to, especially in an enterprise context, much harder, many more products, many more features, etc. I think Architect solves all of this. But in terms of where things go as well, a lot of browsing and a lot of information gathering is going to go through agents as well. But the way we see it, there will still need to be a repository for the businesses to use to present themselves. And what we're really keen on is giving businesses a way to customize and brand, especially the different content that users see, whether that comes through ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever. So I think a lot of search changes to be more question and answer based. But not all web browsing is coming through search. So we're trying to solve that other bit. Maybe you come through an ad on Instagram, X, LinkedIn, etc. You still need something to then actually understand what it is you've just clicked on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how does this let's say how does this change, remodel itself in terms of what specific department, like if it's like marketing or sales team or engineers, like how does the platform adapt to those different identities, I guess?
Well, AI is very good at role playing, right? One of the things that AI models are very, very good at doing is understanding how different people think and talk, and it's able to inhabit all of those personas. And I will say that the way marketing and salespeople are going to read, a piece of content and understand what a business does is very different to how myself as an engineer is going to do that. So, the agent's anticipating what it thinks the users are going to care about, but then it's also learning heuristically what all of that traffic is going to interact with, and then trying to sort of anticipate what is going to answer the question better. It's quite funny, really. We build these interactive pages, these dynamic agentic websites, as we call them. I think you guys have got the hats. I don't know if you've got them with you.
They're in my bag.
In your bag.
I have hats.
Well, let's get them.
I'll go and get them.
For my two new hat wearing friends. Yeah.
Let's go. I did not know.
Well, yeah, we've got some hats. They're interactive, but actually I think the best page, ultimately, you don't need to interact at all, because you just see exactly what it is you need to see right out of the gate, right? So that's ultimately what we're working towards.
Okay, interesting. I want to get the hats.
I don't have the hats.
Oh, damn.
They're coming on next week. Don't worry.
Next week we'll have the hats.
I fumble the bag.
Our bad. I'm fumbling that. Interesting. Okay, and you guys raise cash. Like, what's the funding landscape like for this? How do the conversations go in those rooms? What are the VCs looking to hear? Why do you think that they back you guys? We'd love to know more about that.
I mean, we're backed by Concept and by Project A, and I think you've had Ollie on, and I don't know if I don't think you've had Dario on, but you've certainly had some Project A people, and so you can certainly ask them why they backed us. But in terms of the funding landscape, I mean, we raised in July, and my perception from talking to other founders, I've spoken to a couple of founders over the last few days about how their fundraisers are going. I think the landscape's changing very quick, so it's hard for me to comment on how it currently is. But in terms of our fundraise, I think it was very interesting trying to explain. It's kind of ironic, really, trying to explain what it is we were doing. I think we found very tricky. It's such a new thing. There are no examples of this prior. There are other companies that build personalization tools, and there's things like Mutiny, for example, who raised a load of cash from Sequoia a few years ago. But I think the biggest challenge was just getting people to understand really what we were doing and why it was so different to what the Mutiny and etc. do, and the interactive element, the memory element, and why the underlying architecture shift of agents specifically is so game changing for what we do. So definitely a messaging thing was very hard there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's just such a kind of frontier space in the kind of application area. I wanted to move the conversation on to something we talked about yesterday when we met about where you see, being an engineer, you're at the forefront of this. Where you see the kind of workflow of a software engineer going. What are you seeing on the ground with how you're using these models to kind of build architect, and what are your takes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have some hot takes on this. I tweeted an image earlier, and it's me declaring ultimately the pull request is dead. The pull request as a unit of work worked for a while. Let's say from maybe 2008 or maybe a little bit earlier till recently. But what we're seeing is just the velocity of change is so much higher, and particularly what matters in those changes. Not everything in the code base not all code is made equal. Some things are extremely important. They are a one-way door decision that you cannot reverse. And some things have big implications for the architecture. And those are really the only things that you want to be collaborating on, or even if you're the person making that pull request, those are still the only things you really care about. The rest is a lot of it's just plumbing. GitHub is simply not fit for purpose anymore. I'm absolutely sure of that. Not just the scale that they're not able to handle. I think I don't know if they've lost their final 9 yet, but you can check on the real GitHub status page. But the scale is just not it's just not built for that now. And the actual interaction mode and the collaboration, it just doesn't work for either. I think software is becoming a lot more continuous and a lot more like molding clay, where it's spinning and you're using your hands to mold it, because the actual time to generate the code, which used to be the vast majority of the time, is now shrunk so small, right?
Yeah, I find that all very interesting in terms of I guess it's kind of moving on a little bit from the SaaS apocalypse, which seems to have calmed down a lot more now. I think that was just a bit of a shock reaction at first. Not that that's not true and real, but maybe the timelines were a little bit too compressed. Something that we've been discussing on the show quite a lot is the fact that there are narratives surrounding maybe insert company is dead. I think Cursor was doing the rounds previously, but then we come out and we see that Cursor crosses 2 billion ARR a couple of weeks ago. So our thesis essentially was around maybe in this tech bubble that we live in, our feedback loops are so quick that we kind of see this thing, it's shiny, and then we throw it away and we don't really like it anymore because a new thing comes out and it's a little bit better. But there's a whole sort of subsurface of other people who are still only just adopting these tools for the first time. Do you have any thoughts here? I guess being someone who's more at the core of most of these technologies than I am, I'm non-technical, but I'd love to hear your thesis on are these companies dead? Is Claude killing them all?
I mean, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. Was a great quote that it was actually one of the engineers at Ramp replied to me with when I tweeted something about the Ramp Inspect stuff, and also about Fire Tiger, which is a product we use. I don't think GitHub. I think I'm happy to declare that dead. I'm looking to move off that. If somebody will come along with something better, I will move off. They're in the bowels of Microsoft now. They still haven't got a CEO anymore. They really are just being absorbed in. And I think without some drastic change, I think GitHub is going to be in trouble. Cursor, I don't know. It's really hard to say, and I'm not going to speculate a huge amount on that. But just to your point of like, we cancelled Cursor for what it's worth, so we don't use Cursor anymore. We're completely on Pi, and we use our own API keys. Yeah. But the future is here. It's not evenly distributed. Both things can be true. The cutting edge is more background agents and less synchronous agents. It's more autonomous software delivery. It's self-healing software where the agents are able to operate that software in production as well as just build it. Yeah. But it's not evenly distributed. And there's something to be said for those things still have to be wrapped up and deployed in a way that enterprises can understand. And I think that's really where Cursor are focused. They have a lot of enterprise features, and they have a lot of they have this big sales team and all these kind of things. So, I don't think the concept of enterprise sales goes away. Therefore, I don't think the concept of, enterprise coding tool companies goes away.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on this, something you mentioned a few minutes ago about how, code is becoming, or building software is becoming, like molding clay, right? The time to actually have the code ready and written and ready to go with as little bugs as possible is kind of shortening so much. It's now about where you mold the clay and how you actually mold the software. Can you talk to us a little bit about the way software engineers and technical people are kind of shifting their mindset towards that, right? We speak to a lot of them in companies, and they say, look, we're not even sometimes I'm not even checking the code anymore because it's doing it for me, and I know that I've prompted it ready to go. Talk to us about how you're shifting the way that you work and the way that you think about building software with that in respect.
Yeah, the skills definitely changed. The skill set, it already has changed, right? If you think about what, we used to call computers as a term, used to actually be a role for a person. It was mostly women, and they would sit in a big room with loads of desks, and they would do loads of maths, and they were computers. And then we had digital computers come along, and then we had to have people program them, and that was a certain skill. And then we went up the stack, and so when we went from writing assembly code to C and sure. things like that, the skill set changed, and the understanding of what the job is changed. You still have to understand the layer below, right? You still have to understand what's going on in the CPU. But we moved a little bit up the stack, and I think that's happening again. You still need to understand what that code is doing. You still need to understand how your system works. You still need to understand how the data is stored and how it flows and the life cycle of that data. Building software is actually getting harder. It's getting more complex. It's getting more ambitious. I think software engineering as a job is going to get even more intense and challenging, because the code generation was actually one of the easier parts, right? Yeah. Anyone could learn the syntax of writing the code, but to architect a system that works at scale, that actually takes experience, and it takes reps. So I'm quite positive towards very senior engineers. I don't think it's just going to be eaten by everyone like vibe cannoning and 50,000 lines of code a day with GStack or whatever. I think actual quality software engineering is going to be more important than ever.
Yeah. As we mentioned before, it's just a centralization of of the top 1% of whether it's a company or a role or a person, whatever. They just become more powerful, and everyone else becomes less so because of that. Is that what's happening? I feel like that's just happening everywhere now, right?
Maybe, but those tools do filter down. I always come back to Borg. So Borg was Google's internal version of Kubernetes back in the day. And Borg was so good that if you were an engineer at Google, you could deploy new services that served 200 million users, and you didn't have to think about it. If you had less than, I remember speaking to an engineering manager there once, and he said, if you go speak to the SREs, they ask you how many users they have. You say 100 million, they laugh you out the room. The infrastructure just works to the point where you don't even have to worry about that. And eventually, that filters through to the rest of the industry. So I think right now, people who are, shifting billions of tokens a day to build, features in their products, and they're, orchestrating many different agents, like we are, we're certainly making much more progress than we would have otherwise. But those techniques will filter through. People will move around. Tools will get built. Tools will, processes and workflows will get productized. I think that will filter through to the rest of the industry. I think there'll be more software engineers in 5 years than there are now.
Yeah, interesting. Look, we've run out of time. Can we plug anything? Where can we send people?
Best thing to do, visit tryarchitect.com and experience the world's first agentic website.
Love it.
Boom.
So good.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Brilliant. Take care, guys.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Before we have our next guest on, leave our daily business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Next on the show, we have Faris. Faris, can you hear us? Yes.
Loud and clear. I think a congratulations is in order. It's maybe a few days past the news, but congrats on the Series B. Must have been super exciting for you guys. We've been pumped for this conversation. We've been we need to.
We have Craig in the house. Can we?
Yeah, we got Craig joining us live as well. We're just gonna check with our producer if we can bring. Yeah, we can. Amazing.
Okay, we're good.
But yeah, guys, just again, congratulations on the news. Super exciting. Do you want to maybe just like intro normal computing and then also the news specifically in the round? And we'd love to get into it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, since this is a technology podcast, I'd love to go one layer deeper with you guys when it comes to the mission. So really the goal of normal computing is to solve the recursive self-improvement problem in hardware. So what that means is we're building new kind of AI technology and also semiconductor design software that will allow hardware and AI to live in this sort of recursive loop. Where AI will kind of design the next generation of hardware that will run the next generation of AI that will then design the next generation of hardware. So that's kind of what we do.
Such a good way to kick off. Go on, sorry, kick you off.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, we're going to jump straight into it with some more questions. My first question is, like, a lot of people are saying that this specific technology is probably one of the most important ones in the world right now, the mission that you guys are focusing on. Can you maybe tell us why that is?
Yeah. I mean, we know that... I mean, for us, it's really about energy, right? So we see that in the next few years, we're going to hit this really hard wall when it comes to the energy requirements of compute. So, at least in the US, we're expecting to have a 49 gigawatt shortfall around 2028. 2030 is typically the number that's thrown out there is the timeline where we feel quite confident that we're going to have challenges on a global scale. And kind of our position is that we need to be thinking about next generation architecture from a somewhat radical point of view. So it's exploring new kinds of architectures that would be considered unconventional. Obviously, at normal, we'd call them normal. We think it's kind of like the more normal way to do computing, where the software that we're running matches much more closely to the hardware physics itself. The challenge is we feel like to solve this kind of problem, we need to do it in partnership with AI. So that's a key part of our thesis, where designing this kind of silicon and optimizing with the level of complexity that silicon has and hardware in general. It's something very difficult to do with legacy software that hasn't really changed in the last 40 years, and also the massive talent shortages that we have globally. There just aren't enough humans who can help us solve this problem. So we need to partner with AI.
Yeah, and Luke and Ronan, just to build on that, we also have to do it in partnership with major institutions. And one of those major institutions you referenced today, Matt Clifford's the founding chair of ARIA.
Correct.
ARIA's supported this program, and they've done a super job. The partnership is absolutely phenomenal. It's a great win for the UK.
Yes. I wanted to ask a question specifically to you, Craig. What's the appetite like here? What's the there needs to be a radical change, as you mentioned. Is the appetite there within the market for normal computing? Like how is it an education thing? Is it like, no, we need to do this like straight away? How is the appetite from a kind of business perspective?
The demand pull is exceptionally strong, but on both sides of the fence, actually. If you think about what Faris was talking around the AI for silicon engineering, building chips faster, getting them to market faster. NVIDIA set the pace a number of years ago. 3 years, went to 2 years, went to 18 months, went to 12 months for new chip spins. And that set the pace for everybody. And so everyone's scrambling to keep up. We've got the memory shortage challenge. So the AI software is really important, not only for time to market, but also for freeing up fab space, meaning that you can pump more chips through and get more memory onto the market.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's fundamentally what our software does. On the energy side, on the chip side, the demand pull is exceptional as well. Everybody wants everything today.
Yeah.
And the big challenge that they have is, as Faris alluded to, they're going to hit this wall in a couple of years' time. 50 gigawatts of power shortage in US data centers by 2028. I mean, who's going to build 50 nuclear reactors to support that? It's just not going to happen. So you need a fundamentally different architecture. So yes, the demand pull is there and it's exceptionally strong.
This awesome follow-up, but like, how do we solve this energy problem then? What do we do? Do we go to space? Do we like lean into solar more? Like, what's the solution?
I'm gonna tee Faris up here. My only comment is it's got to be durable. You can't shut data centers off. That's not going to work. Sending things into space is kind of interesting, but Faris and the team before I joined have been working on a phenomenal piece of technology. So Faris, maybe you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of our perspective is we don't think it's we think it's going to be challenging to solve the problem by finding new ways to acquire energy. And really what we have to do is, so there's this equation actually that Jensen put out at GTC where he was saying that, revenue equals tokens per watt times the total available gigawatts. So you can either go after the right-hand side, the right term on the right-hand side or the left term. A lot of folks are talking about the right term gigawatts. We're looking at that left term, which is, tokens per watt, and trying to see, basically just try to solve the energy problem by making the chips themselves more efficient. Craig brought up a really important point too, which is that, to do something like this, since it isn't really in the mainstream discussion as much yet, although it's starting to, especially when Jensen makes claims like that, it requires close partnership with very ambitious parties, many of which are the folks in this round, but also Craig mentioned Aria. So we've been working with Aria, one of the UK agencies that's focused on funding these kinds of projects that are going after what we see as the biggest problems that humanity is kind of facing right now. And so we're super pleased. And by the way, we're both calling from Germany right now, so we're happy to.
Let's go.
Flying the European flag, as we like to see it.
Love to see it.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how we should be thinking about thermodynamic computing? Right, you guys have released the first thermodynamic chip. Can you tell us a little bit about what that actually means? How people should be thinking about it? Super interested.
Yep. Very high level idea is typically the trade-offs that we're thinking about when we design chips are kind of latency and energy. Thermodynamic computing introduces a third vector, which is noise. So we're able to use physical noise as a computational resource rather than fighting against it and maintaining these 100% deterministic states, which are quite expensive. There's also a processing and memory aspect of the architecture that we're building, which means that, to a certain extent, we're doing the computation kind of directly in the memory cells itself, which is, kind of solves a closely related problem, which is sort of the bandwidth challenges that we're finding with GPUs today. And initially, the ASICs that we're bringing to market, in partnership with AI and the EDA software developing, are going to be targeting particular Gen AI inference workloads like diffusion models. So last week, OpenAI shut down Sora, as you guys probably know. Turns out
rip Sora.
Right. It turns out they were spending $15 million a day to keep it up and running. That's sort of fundamentally compute problem, energy problem. So we think that that's one of the areas that these kinds of ASICs will help resolve. But it's broader than that. So like in the future, we want to have thousands of ASICs because that's what you can do with AI. You can have way more custom silicon. It'll be beyond the era of single products. H100, B200. Now we're going to have kind of an ASIC for every workload in the data center. That's really what we believe. So every application may be running on a different chip. And that's why both aspects of kind of what we're doing we think is really important, both the AI software and this thermodynamic computing paradigm.
It's fascinating. There's something that keeps coming up in the conversation is memory. Like we're seeing a lot of memory related stocks like skyrocket. I think SanDisk was one that we covered on the show maybe a few months ago. I'm not sure what's happening with it now. Why? Like, I think it was the best performing stock of last year, maybe. Or the numbers were staggering. Like, why did we? And it was almost instant. It was. I think maybe Jensen mentioned something related to it, and then after that the market reacted, and it kind of just carried on. Why are we seeing these stocks skyrocket?
Yep. I mean, demand is insanely high right now for memory, and I think it is a little bit unprecedented. I mean, well, there's two aspects to it. So one is that there was this unprecedented increase in memory spawned by this movement to more like agentic workloads, right? So these are workloads that are going to have much larger KV. You need much larger KV caches. Just in general, the footprint is much larger from an algorithmic perspective. So that led to a huge demand. But then from the supply side, I mean, with hardware, it's just very hard to ramp up. Like, unlike software, you can't, if you have a huge increase in demand, you may not be able to meet it sort of immediately. So right now there's this huge race to build more fabs. And yeah, it's a supply chain problem to a large extent. And we're only going to see that increase, right? So like the agents I have like 5 agents running right now. I was just checking in on them. Looks like they're doing okay. But that's kind of the way the world is headed, right?
Yeah. Your
awesome. Cool.
the tech is specifically designed, a multitude of things, but for kind of high resolution AI tasks in kind of video generation. Can you tell us a little bit about, what do you see the future being for video generation and where that specific vertical is going within AI?
True. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so video generation for us is also a bit of a proxy, right? So if you can accelerate video, you can likely accelerate some very difficult problems in AI for science, for example.
Sure.
So materials discovery, drug discovery, like these kinds of areas that are also super important. But for video itself, I think the goal is kind of like real time. So that'll be like maybe an interesting moment when we do hit that point of uncanniness where we can like stream an AI movie in real time. I don't know what the use case for that will be exactly, but I think it kind of opens up a whole new world of things we can't even really imagine right now. But yeah, I'd say for us, like the broader thing is we think diffusion models have a ton of potential. We're seeing them right now penetrate language use cases as well. There's companies like Inception, as you guys probably know, who are kind of pushing the paradigm of diffusion language models. So generally, we think this is just the right workload to target. But yeah, you guys could have like a guest on the show, I guess, who's just like a diffusion model. Can
you you can hook us up with a diffusion model guest. That'd be pretty cool.
I have one last. Sorry, Joe.
I
have one last question.
I'm going to do that for you guys. So once we have the hardware,
can we do that?
That's going to be one of the guests I'd like to invite on the show. If it's okay.
Let's do it. We can put big normal computing in, at the top as well. Just so you get a bit of ad space for free.
Dress them up. We've only got 1 minute left. Craig, I just had to ask, like, when you were at Sun Microsystems, did you how does the world look now compared to what you guys were thinking back then? Like, is it just completely has it accelerated insane amount? Are we nearer to where we thought we'd be? Are we further away?
It's accelerated to an insane amount. I mean, there were some visionaries like Bill Joy and James Gosling who invented Java, and Scott McNealy that always had their eye on the future. So they were always kind of casting to where the puck was going to be. And that was really interesting. And we're not too far from that. But I would say that we've accelerated way beyond that. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. And prior to that, Silicon Graphics, who invented 3D visualization for Hollywood and all of that good stuff. I mean, we're doing it in real time, as Faris was saying today. And guys, I just wanted to do a quick shout out, if I may. Well done on ET. It's fantastic. It's great. As a Brit who recently lived in Silicon Valley, coming back massive supporter of the show. So
Appreciate it.
I'll be watching with interest moving forward. And big shout out to the team. Our Silicon team is in the UK. It's
Let's
headed up by a Welsh.
Come visit.
Let's go for the UK.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Look,
Craig, that means so much. Thank you.
Yeah, that does. We appreciate the time, guys. Have a good time in Germany, and we'll speak to you soon.
Keep crushing it as well.
Yeah,
And we'll wait for that diffusion model as well.
Yeah, let us know.
Good stuff. See you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Awesome. Next on the show, we have Joe Fitzsimons. Before we do that, the infrastructure for the on-chain world, Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org. Joe, can you hear us?
Joe, welcome to the show. Welcome to the European Technology Network. And also congratulations to you and the team. What an amazing achievement. Officially have a ticker, HQ. What an amazing day. I saw the photo of you guys over there. I'd love for you just to intro who you are, what you do, but also this particular moment. It must mean so much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it's certainly an exciting time for us at Horizon. For those who don't know us, what we do is we essentially build the software infrastructure for quantum computing. So building the tools, the programming languages, the compilers, the runtime to be able to take an application that a developer builds and be able to compile it down and execute it on hardware. And what we're working towards is essentially trying to get to a point where we can enable code written for conventional computers to be automatically accelerated on quantum computers. So our real focus is building that software infrastructure that is allowing developers to harness these systems to do real work.
Wow, it's really cool. I mean, straight away, first question off the bat is, you left, when we were prepping for the show, you left a professorship at Singapore University to start Horizon Quantum. And it kind of just shows how much the mission means to you. But what's that journey been like from that? I mean, that moment to see, listed on the NASDAQ, that journey must have been insane.
Yeah, it's quite it's quite a journey. It's something of a roller coaster ride. I got into quantum computing because I thought it would be cool to build technology, to try to build the next wave of technology that actually has some impact in the world, right? I thought it would be really cool to have been part of like the early internet or like the PC revolution or the first computers or something like this. When I was in university, I thought maybe quantum computing is my best chance of doing this. So, and I thought, I better go off, get a PhD because no one's going to let me do cool stuff if I don't get a PhD. So I went off, did the doctorate, worked in Oxford for a while, and then moved over to Singapore to work at a research center here. But my motivation the whole time has been, to build real technology. And, for the first 15 years of that journey, quantum computing was relatively far from actually affecting people's lives, from actually getting to the point where quantum computers are being used to solve some of these really hard problems. If you fast forward to today, there's a quantum computer just behind me here in the screen.
Way.
It is getting much closer to reality. So quantum computing is really reaching something of an inflection point. So back then, when I was working in academia, I felt like that was the right place where I was going to be able to make progress, kind of push the research forward and so on. But back, 2016, 2017, there started to be some results in the area where it started to make it look like, hey, quantum computing might be turning into something more concrete. And it started to look like the place that you would have the larger impact would be if you started to move over to industry. So, January 2018, I registered the company. I went out and raised a seed round. Despite what everyone tells you on the internet, it does not take like 2 weeks to do, maybe unless you know Mark Andreessen or something. But I did not. I was a professor, so I didn't know any VCs. So it took us until about November. Well, it took me about till November to raise the seed round. We were fortunate enough that SG Innovate, which is a deep tech investor here in Singapore, was willing to lead. So myself and some of my group members started, we left our academic jobs, started in the company back in early 2019. And so what we've been doing is trying to put together well, you can think of it as trying to speed run the history of computer science.
Yeah.
So if you look at conventional computing from the very first computers, you see the first programming languages being, the first systems being programmed essentially in machine code, and then you start to get to, something a little bit more assembly language like, before you get to imperative languages like BASIC and so on, and then object-oriented programming much later. So what we have been doing is trying to invent all of that for quantum computing, because there's 80 plus years of computer science history of the development of software. So when you're talking about enabling people that are used to programming conventional computers to be able to harness quantum computers to do real work, first of all, they expect something that is much more like a modern programming language in terms of just your ability to do the full range of functions, the ability to specify different kinds of objects and classes and so on, rather than working one instruction at a time and having to think about how the information is physically instantiated on the system. But the other thing you have to think about is, how do I start to abstract away the quantum mechanics? Because the way quantum computers work, ultimately, what you need to do is harness quantum physics effects to process information. And if you're not doing that, there's no advantage to having a quantum computer. But doing that is really non-intuitive. So what we're trying to do is to make that as much as possible a compilation problem, rather than a problem the programmer needs to worry about. So we've been kind of working steadily towards trying to create abstraction layers to get to a higher and higher level of abstraction, to the point where the developer can just think about the different types of information they have and how they're manipulating those bits of information, rather than thinking how they're physically instantiated and how they're manipulated on the processor.
Wow,
that's kind of more like what modern programming is.
Yeah, what a journey! What an insane journey! It's so cool to see. We've got a bunch of questions around this. I guess first one, more broadly, like how soon will we see quantum computers come into industries that I guess the average consumer are more familiar with? There's one right behind you there.
It's a consumer show. It's already integrated now.
It's already in my face.
I nearly did this from my office, and then I realized, just down the corridor, I have a quantum computer for my background. So.
That's it.
This is definitely one of the coolest backgrounds we've had on the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that's that different question.
I think I know what you're getting at, though. I mean, how long before they're having a real impact? And the reality is, no one really knows for sure. There's a lot of progress being made. We tend to keep track of the number of qubits in quantum computers and so on. And you can think of this as like the number of bits of memory your quantum computer has. Quantum computing passed a milestone about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where the largest systems reached a point where they had more bits than an Atari 2600, or more quantum bits than an Atari 2600 had classical bits of memory. So they are not comparable to the laptops sitting in front of you on the desk. Yeah. Right? They're nothing close. They're many, many decades behind. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is that if you can build even a small quantum computer with more than about 50 qubits, if those qubits have very low noise, if they have very low error rates, then they can tackle certain problems. Well, they get into a regime where they're hard to simulate. And at 200-ish qubits, you get to a point where there are problems that you can solve on that quantum computer that you could not solve effectively on conventional computers, more or less, no matter how many of them you could pull together. So we don't need to get to trillions of qubits, or quadrillions of qubits or something like this. Once we start to get to thousands and tens of thousands of qubits, there's a lot of interesting applications if the error rate is low enough. But the major barrier there is that error rate. So it turns out you end up having to encode your information, take one qubit, encode it into many qubits to protect it from error. And that has been really problematic. We've known that this was possible for the last 30 years, but it's only in the last 18 months that it's actually started to be demonstrated, multi-round error correction in real hardware, actually improving the error rates. The error rates are still not great, so we're only just on the cusp of seeing the first real applications, but we are just starting to tip over into that regime where you do have interesting applications.
Wow.
I wanted to touch on your hiring philosophy. We've had a lot of people on the show who are building, companies for humanity, let's say, instead of kind of the standard kind of B2B SaaS or whatever. And I always love asking these, the founders of these companies or CEOs of the companies about their hiring philosophy and what they look for in specifically like engineers. What do you look for when you're, when you're looking for people to hire? Are they very mission driven? Like how do you kind of assess that when you are looking for an engineer? Because I think, it's a really interesting, kind of space to be. Oh, there's one engineer who's kind of very mission driven, and there's one who's not necessarily as mission driven and wants to kind of just go and make a load of money or whatever they want to go and do. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Biggest difference I would say is that although we have an engineering team, our largest team is our science team, which is entirely physicists. So it's actually as much physicists I'm hiring as it is engineers. Mm-hmm. In terms of what we're looking for in team members, we made mistakes on this along the way. So we kind of, one of these things you learn by doing, you learn what's right for your organization as you go. And some of the time you learn from decisions you made that worked out really well. And sometimes you learn from decisions you made that haven't quite worked out the way you expected, and so on. So one of the things we noticed was when we started out, when we're like first year of the company, something like that, we put together a values document, and we had it, but it wasn't really doing anything, right? We had kind of filled out, okay, well, what are our values, and we put some stuff in it. But a few years ago, we revisited that. So we said, like, this, it's not really serving a purpose, right? It's not driving behavior. It's not, it's not actually affecting the company culture. And what we did was we went through and we kind of looked at how different companies have done this well in the past. And if you have a look, two companies that do it very well are Amazon and Google, right? Mm-hmm. Google has this, things we know to be true, and Amazon has its leadership principles. And these are, at least to me, they struck me as really interesting because they're fairly prescriptive. They kind of give a way to behave in the organization. And we noticed that there were places where, whenever we ran into difficulties, it was one of a small number of things. So we formulated this list of principles, and each one was designed to try to shape our culture in a way that would ensure people, well, you can see it, it's on our website. The point is to try to make sure that people understand coming in what the expectations are and how we want people to interact with one another. For example, we have one that's tackle hard problems and persevere. And one of the reasons that is one of our principles is because when people make the transition, we're hiring a lot of physicists, people transition from academia to industry. Sometimes they think, now I'm not a scientist anymore. Now I'm not a researcher anymore. I'm doing something different. So I don't tackle research problems anymore. And that's wrong, right? The reason we hire a bunch of people with PhDs is because when we're faced with a hard problem that is an open problem that no one has ever solved before, the expectation is that you solve it, right? And you should not be put off by the first obstacle. Yeah, it's a hard problem. You should tackle it. And so we have set up, we have 8 of these. We have ones that's like debate, discuss, disagree, and then commit. And that is, again, because you realize that what you're running into, sometimes some of the problems you have are related to not committing and continuing to argue over the right course of action after a decision's been made. The other kind of thing that you see is what's really interesting, like the really important one for us is drive progress and get your hands dirty. because a lot of people moving in from large organizations often are more used to doing things that don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
So, if you have, if something strays outside their domain or something like that, they're maybe less willing to engage in it. They might be more risk averse in the sense of, when you're a startup, the risk is not making progress fast enough. The risk isn't that you have web search that's generating you, tens and tens of billions a quarter, right? So you don't have that risk of disrupting that massive revenue engine that you already have. So your profile in terms of how you engage with these things, how you run the company, how you weigh up action versus inaction, the calculations are just totally different. So we've tried to crystallize those, in this set of principles that we use, and we kind of look for alignment with those principles. And we're pretty upfront about that when we hire people, so that they know what they're getting themselves in for. That's why we have them on the website.
So interesting.
This is so awesome. I wish we had more time. We have so many more questions, but we are unfortunately out of time. I would love to do this again if you'll have us again. We'd love to have you back on the show. And just congrats on everything as well. It's so awesome to see.
Sure. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Joe. Have a good one.
See you soon.
Wow, so cool. Such
Awesome
a fascinating company
stuff.
as well.
Before we have our next guest on Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market, stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com.
We are welcoming on Julia and Rufus over at Connect to Me. We've got some big news coming from. I think I'm just checking if we can say it. Yeah.
You guys say it.
Yeah. It's like the news is out, right?
Juliet, is the news out? Are we allowed to say it?
The news is out. Okay. Boom.
Well, you guys say it anyway.
Let's get a lion roar.
What is the news?
Tell us the news.
The news is that Connectome Health has come out of stealth and is officially announcing our $2 million fundraise, pre-seed fundraise. We're out there. We're launched already. Let's hit the ground running.
Annual round of applause, the highest honor one can receive on the show. Guys, congratulations. This is really cool. Maybe, I guess, for the viewers at home, quick intro on the business and then what you guys do there as well. And then we can get off with some questions.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, my name is Rufus. I'm the co-founder and chief science officer of Connectome. And we've also got Lucas, who's the CEO, who's the co-founder also, who can join the call today, but he is very much reveling in the launch activities. Essentially, Connectome Health, it all was sort of born from an idea that infrastructurally, there's nothing in society to actually measure the brain in a meaningful way to avoid neurological diseases, disorders later on in life. We all move towards these trajectories of cognitive decline in our lives, and we don't understand what we should be doing about it. So Lucas and I, when sort of conceptualizing Connectome, we wanted to solve this problem, and we wanted to create something that was actually available for people to use on a mass basis, scalable and accessible, to actually measure their brain, to track how it's changing over time, the trajectories that they're moving on, and how they can actually mitigate those trajectories towards anything like a neurological disease or disorder. We basically stepped back and said, what can we do about that? And that's how Connectome was born. So essentially, what we are as a platform is an AI ML platform software that integrates different neurological imaging technologies, integrates it with multimodal data, things like lifestyle data, context about how your life has changed over time, wearable data, quantitative data, brings this all together and packages it in a way that we can see over time what is actually affecting your brain and what you can do about that.
Let's go. One of the more mission-driven startups we spoke to, which is always great to see. First question straight off the back is why? I mean, we saw Whoop raised an insane round a couple days ago, I think, or $1 billion at 10 billion. The biometric markers and the way that, especially the younger generation, are sort of adopting these new technologies is skyrocketing. Why aren't we seeing more around the brain? Why are we just seeing like this kind of stuff now, especially from a consumer side as well? Yeah,
absolutely. It's a great question, and I think neurotech is on on the verge of something great. It's the beginning of a huge wave that's been starting to occur. It's very exciting. The answer to that question is probably the accessibility side of things. One of the things with wearables is that it's just so easy to actually put on a person and just let it passively monitor an individual over time. And then more and more, we're starting to see actionability come from those wearables. So there's that daily side to it. I think a lot of neurotech companies still haven't quite cracked that daily monitoring that's going on. So it's a sense of how can you introduce these neuroimaging technologies into a cadence that people are used to, that they are happy to work with and comfortable with. The way that we look at Connectum at the moment is more like an eye test or a blood test, where you actually go for a regular cadence because you want to proactively look into the metrics linked to your brain. But basically, just having that correct cadence for individuals makes a huge difference. The other thing I would say is actually what does this mean for me? What we're finding with different industries, businesses that we're working with, Juliet, you can sort of comment a little bit on the use cases here, is that it's specific to the use case, whether it's performance or health tracking, longevity. Those protocols, they change and they're customizable to those use cases. But again, it comes down to the actual cadence at which you can introduce these into society, and also just the pure accessibility. Where are the centers for accessing this technology? How portable is it? How easy is it to set up and get up and running? So those are all factors which up until now have been very much missing.
Yeah, would love to hear the
case in terms of use cases. Yeah, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So essentially, we're, like Rufus said, we're giving people a way to track their brain as they track their body, and so it can really fit into many different areas and complement many different organizations. So, for example, we're working and we're seeing a big need for in clinics. So giving clinics an opportunity to actually add a brain layer that fits into their current health programs and protocols, so that they can really start understanding how interventions that they're already running within their clinic show up in the brain. Giving clinics the opportunity to replace one-off cognitive tests with objective, continuous evidence-aware monitoring. We're also working with elite sports teams and athletes, so it's making the side of the cognitive side of performance visible and manageable. So really allowing athletes to track how factors like travel, training load, recovery, pressure impact brain state, what's influencing that change over time, so that they can essentially adjust training and recovery and scheduling based on cognitive performance. We also can work and sort of seeing a big gap that we're filling for device and platform partners. So bringing sort of grounded behavioral data into training models on the physiological brain signals rather than just behavior alone. Yeah.
So fascinating. And like, what does it look like to get something like this rolled out from like I don't know if, what is there? Is there a regulatory body, and like how do you like develop this and then start like selling it?
Yeah, it's become our bread and butter is understanding how you roll it out and the right way to do things. And I mean, the first thing is to sort of start from the beginning with, as you said, things like regulation and creating a secure platform. So in that sort of context, there's two buckets that sort of falls into. The first is the wellness, the second is the clinical. With the wellness setting, essentially what we're starting off by saying is that we're not claiming any diagnostics, but rather that we're giving people a tool so that they can start to explore ideas, protocols themselves. They can see themselves how this is impacting their brain. So from a regulatory perspective, it's just a case of working with GDPR compliant platforms that protect your data, are transparent about how we use that data, if it's used for models, consent driven, that sort of thing. And then equally, the neuroimaging side, working with device companies that are CE marked, that have good risk profiles when it comes to working with consumers and scaling with consumers. That's probably more the regulatory side to things. The other side is actually having devices which are just quick and easy to set up, so that essentially a lot of people can actually use this technology. So having a device that you can plug into your laptop, plug into the wall or a power socket, that's something which is scalable and very, very quick to use, because you can take it and you can put it in a clinic, you can take it and put it in a sports pitch in the back of a van if you want to, and drive it around and use it as a pop-up. But essentially, it's all about how do you operationalize that device as well. And there's a few challenges there as well, but all of those are sort of surmountable.
Yeah. And how are you guys approaching the market in terms of having to educate people? As Ronan mentioned at the beginning of the interview, it was, companies like Whoop with wearables has become very ingrained in, normal life now, right? It's not just, they went through the athlete kind of way, making them kind of cool, and then it's kind of just ingrained into normal life for a lot of people. Is that the kind of approach that you guys are thinking? Obviously, there's more, clinical side to this. Whoop are now, increasing their clinical awareness with what what data that they're measuring. It's kind of doing the opposite, but in a similar way, if that makes sense. How are you guys thinking about your go-to-market strategy in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the goal is to make it as accessible and simple as tracking your sleep or steps. We want this to be something that people do on a repeated basis, on a yearly, annual basis, to be honest. And it's a way to actually just start having, the first step is just to simply get a better understanding of your brain for you as an individual. And that's the most important thing. It's something that not many people, if not anyone, has real sort of understanding about. And over time, what we can do is build a picture of what's normal for you and then how your brain is responding to everyday life. So really naturally, it should just become ingrained for people, because it allows them to live a better quality of life, having that sort of insight.
Yeah. And what's the plan, I guess, to follow on? You guys have raised, this announcement's going out today. I'm sure you guys are incredibly busy. What do the next 6 months look like for you guys? What's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, another day in the office, right? But yeah, it's we've actually just come out of our planning session, so we're pretty well equipped to actually work through this. Essentially, the first sort of steps that we're doing is just constantly expanding our capabilities as a platform. So that means more metrics validated through peer review. So part of that is we're running continuous studies with Imperial College London, where we work with users to actually gather that data so that every metric that goes into the platform is actually evidence-backed. So when we say this metric does this for you, we have the whole evidence pack that's actually behind that. So essentially we're producing new ones, consolidating old ones, publishing them as well. So going down that route in terms of improving our credibility as a company. But also we've got, I'll let Julia talk a bit more about our kind of commercial targets. So from my side, it's all about increasing the metrics in the platform. Also, actionability is a huge unmet user need. It's, once I've got my brain metrics, what do I do about it? So that's something which we focus on enormously. We've got our first version of essentially an inference model, something that can enable someone to understand what in their lifestyle is impacting their brain. So we were actually rolling that out with this launch, and our aim is to just continuously make that better, enable users to get more rich context about how their life is affecting their brain. So this is something that is going to compound over time, over the next 6 months, as we start getting new data, new metrics, and new lifestyle modalities integrated from individuals. We're also launching it to customers. So we're ingesting new user insights we're keen to understand what are the sort of tricky questions that people are asking as to how we can actually improve the platform and the delivery of the insights that they get. So that's a huge part of what we do, is constantly listen.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Well, look, we've run out of time, but just quickly, where can we send people for the launch if they want to try this thing out? As you know, you're open to new users now. Where can we send people?
You can send them to our website or on LinkedIn. Follow me or connect with Rufus and Lucas. You know,
Nice.
LinkedIn,
Love it.
LinkedIn, the website.
Good stuff. Well, guys, congratulations on everything you've done so far. Keep us updated, and we'll see you soon.
You got a lot to do today.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Great to meet you both.
Guys.
Thanks very much.
Have a good one. You too.
Cheers. Bye.
Nice
stuff. Congrats to the team over there. That's awesome. Nice,
indeed.
Out of stealth, bit of cash.
Bit of cash in the bank.
Some hard tech as well, quite literally hard tech.
Nice one. Anyway, talking about hard tech, Framer, build better sites faster. The all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. Go to framer.com/ETN. Next on the show, we have
Bobby Healy.
Bobby Healy, founder and CEO of Manor Air Delivery.
On X, it's the real Bobby Healy.
And I think it's just real Bobby Healy.
Nice, yeah. Real Bobby Healy. Does that then incite that there is a fake Bobby Healy getting around that we don't know about? I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a question I was up late last night.
He's not in the studio yet, so maybe fake Bobby Healy's going to take over.
But they released, they announced recently a 50 million Series B, which was led by ARK Invest, bringing their total investment to 110 million, with plans to create... we've got Bobby on us right now. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the announcement. Before we jump in, I was just chatting with Luke just then. We noticed that your X handle says real Bobby Healy.
Yeah.
Does that incite is there a fake Bobby Healy getting around?
I got that from Donald Trump, actually. That was a Donald Trump idea.
It's so good. But
that was a clever idea.
Let's stick to the important stuff. Congratulations on a 50 million Series B funding round led by ARK Invest. This was announced yesterday, I think, if I'm not, or maybe the day before.
It was leaked before that, but it was officially announced yesterday. We did a big jobs announcement with it as well. Happy days.
No way, it got leaked.
Yeah, it always does. Bankers, the leakiest people in the world.
Standard procedure.
Yeah.
We got so many questions. First question is, how you started in 2018. How do you go from 0 drone deliveries to 250,000 plus drone deliveries today? What a journey that's been.
And 2 million this year, by the end of the year. So the hardest part, like a lot of businesses, are external factors. Bits that are not in your control, but you do your best to influence. And in our space, it's regulatory and access to airspace. That's the big uncertainty and the big kind of you wish would go faster, you wish would be easier, all that stuff. But we've done a very good job by being in Ireland, working with the European regulators, working with the Irish, and more recently with the US regulators. I think we've done well there. We've got great systems, great processes. I mean, drone delivery business is an airline, so it's all the governance and kind of diligence and discipline of being in an airline. It's quite boring, and it's something that's not in my native language. Being a technology guy, so I think what we've done really well is we've put together a very good team across all the disciplines, and the bits that we can control, like building aircraft, writing software, running operations, we've done very well. Like, we're the Ryanair of the industry, I think. And the bits that we are not in full control of, we've done a very good job, thanks to the regulator here in Ireland, the government in Ireland, and they've all come together to just provide an ecosystem for us that's kind of a structural competitive advantage that we have, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Wow. Congrats to you guys. It brings me on to the next question that I had to touch on. How do you get regulatory approval to fly over densely populated areas?
Yeah, that's the hard part, and you kind of, the word is densely, right? So the population density that that it makes a business like ours viable also makes it difficult, right? Rural drone delivery is not a business. It's never going to be a business unless it's subsidized. So even though people think about islands, all that stuff, yes, it'd be much needed by the 100 islanders, but they're not going to subsidize it. So you need high density for both demand and supply. So, be it restaurants or stores or whatever, and houses. And then with a high density, that number, that calculation of risk to people on the ground just gets more difficult the more people that are there on the ground. And so we've been very lucky in Europe to have very strong set of regulations that were signed into European law early 23 that provided a kind of formulaic, almost a process-driven regulation where we could, it's taken us 7 years to be clear. It's still not very quick, but there's a clear process. And if you can follow that process and you can reach the safety target and the number of successful flights without incident, and you've all these other mitigations like a parachute, and you can prove both theoretically with equations, but practically by actually flying, most importantly, if you have a regulator that's willing to actually work on the other side of it, there's no point having great regulations if you have the lack of energy from the regulator to actually engage with industry and make it happen. And that's been really forthcoming in Europe and particularly in Ireland, but also more recently in the United States. So that kind of perfect storm of having a strong set of regulations, having a willing regulator that's willing to actually do the work and, look at your ducks, engage with you. So it's a bunch of different factors here that have led to it, but it's not easy. And it's going to be an industry where really there's going to be 3 or 4 big players that are going to carve up most of the opportunity. And that's no amount of money speeds up being safe and being regulated. And it's probably too late for anyone to start now. There's ourselves, there's Google, there's Amazon, a handful of others we're all collectively subscale. We'll, as an industry, do about 10 million deliveries this year. We'll be 2 million of those. Wow. It's going to take anyone, even the best team in the world with unlimited capital, 3+ years to get to where we are now. And we'll all have scaled at that stage. So that's a good place to be. So regulatory unlock has enabled the industry, and now timing has enabled it to scale, I think.
Awesome. What does I guess then over the next 3 years, then what does scale look like for you guys? What does the future of air delivery kind of look like for the standard consumer wanting something delivered to their home?
Yeah, well, I'd say for sure most suburban homes in the United States will have drone delivery within 5 years, possibly most of them within 3 years, actually. 3 to 5 years, I would say. It'll never be in city centers, just physically just not practical to do it that way. So it's going to be, there's 92 million suburban homes in the United States. They'll all mostly get drone delivery in the next 3 to 5. Europe and UK is unfortunately a laggard here in terms of readiness to scale. The regulations are not fully developed there yet. But if you look at the EU and the other countries that are in the EASA region, 31 countries, great set of regulations, but still an immature airspace, set of policies and kind of fragmentation of the various different airspace operators. Yeah. I think Europe is probably 2 or 3 years behind the USA and China now. We're hoping that Europe catches up. Obviously, Ireland is the leader. Some other countries like Switzerland, Nordics, are ready and willing to scale. But it's just not, there's no single big cohesive market in the EU to go after. There's just different rules, different approaches. Kissinger once said, I know who to call when I want to talk to America. Who do I call when I want to talk to Europe? And that's perfectly said, right? We have to engage with different airspace operators, different governments everywhere we go in Europe, whereas the United States, our license in the USA lets us scale anywhere we want. Yeah. It takes us 30 days to authorize a new location. Off we go. So the majority of our 2 million orders this year will be in the United States, it's likely. And what we do want to win in Europe, and we are the leader in Europe. But it's going to be a slower to develop market because of that fragmentation. But our ambition is in that 3 to 5 years of growth in USA, we want to be number one, not number two, but number one.
Yeah.
And we have every right to be that. So we're all in on USA now over the next 12 to 18 months, and we'll see. But I'd bet on us.
Yeah, I bet on you too. I wanted to ask about you mentioned regulation and how fragmented Europe is. I also wanted to ask, we were talking about the density of the UK specifically. Is that a factor, and the fact that the US is such a large country?
Yeah.
And everything is a little bit more spread out compared to the UK. Is that a factor within airspace or not at all? Just purely.
Actually, UK is perfect. No, UK is actually, it's probably, it could well be the best market in the world for drone delivery based on the arrangement of cities and suburbs and metro areas. Yeah, there's like 1.4 billion food deliveries a year in the UK.
Yeah.
It's giant. And it's without being disparaging, because the Irish are the same, right? It's a simple food taste, let's say. So there's this medium basket value that really suits delivery. Your Chinese, your Indian, your pizza, your burgers and fries. You can literally predict what a Brit is going to eat next, But the physical layout is really perfect. And like if I could choose between any market in the world, USA is number one, UK is number two.
Okay.
And then within Europe, there's obviously a longer tail. China would probably be number one, but it's closed to foreign companies. So USA and then UK and then everything else.
Yeah. Relative to this, you've mentioned food delivery a couple times. Like looking at the partnerships here, it's like partnerships with Uber, Deliveroo, DoorDash. It would, I guess, seem somewhat obvious that this would eventually form into some sort of ICP for you guys, right? Given the nature of the business that they do. What would this look like? Am I right to maybe think it would be, I'm on my app, I deliver, Deliveroo, and I've got a drone coming and dropping it off to my door?
Yeah.
Like, that's
the way it works now in Dublin. Like, I mean, you go to Just Eat or Deliveroo in Dublin now, you're getting drone delivery. It's oh yeah, there's more drone deliveries than road-based deliveries now. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like there's.
When it comes to Dublin,
be clear, right? I need to be super clear about this. There's no future for road delivery once we roll out somewhere. It is so much better, and we're like 97% available last 12 months in Ireland, so we can tolerate any weather. Why on earth would you get a person with a car to deliver anything to your house in half an hour or an hour when the drone will do it in 2 or 3 minutes? I mean, why would you choose the road? So, and we see that already in the numbers. Like we're bigger now than road-based delivery anywhere where we operate, and that it makes sense.
Do you have to change the infrastructure of the places where people are ordering food from? Does that change in terms of, I guess they've got to have, do they have to have a kind of shipment of drones ready to go and a dock for things? How does it operationally work?
Not at all. No, nothing. We put down rubber mats on the roof of a building or the car park or whatever. Those rubber mats cost $100 on Amazon.
Yeah.
We don't even need them. It's just for optics. We need nothing, nothing at all. So the way we would roll out a city is we would have a mesh of like 3 to 4 kilometer radii circles overlapping. And in the center of those circles would be a shopping mall or a high throughput location, could be a warehouse, could be a grocery store, whatever. And then the drones will actually migrate across that network during the day. We operate 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And once those links overlap, it means that you have a central depot where you store all the aircraft overnight and you do the maintenance or inspections. And then they all go out, they fly out in the morning to their bases and operate from there for the whole day. Autonomy is useful that way. I mean, there's some efficiencies in organizing things like that.
That's so fascinating. So, like, maybe, I guess, final question. We only got about 30 seconds to a minute left. Don't want to take too much of your time. But how far away are we off then from, in my mind, the future looks like I'm walking out and I'm seeing these drones fly above my head and they're delivering everything. Like, how far away are we from that? Maybe London a bit further away.
You're a 50-minute flight from Dublin, so that's how far you are. It's already happening in Dublin and Cork.
That's such a great response.
Sorry to make you feel bad, but it's like, you don't need a time machine. Ryanair will get you there. In the UK, we're working hard on starting up in the UK. We've had great conversations with the UK regulator and the airspace operator, NATS. Government are very positive about this whole industry and this whole space. There's so many jobs to be created in the UK, not just for Mana, but just for the low altitude economy, as we call it. Such a massive opportunity. And I'm hopeful that we'll be operating there by the end of this year. Certainly some of our friends, our frenemies, our competitors in the space, our eyes all over the UK. You've seen Amazon's announcements in that regard, but I think the others are keen on the UK too. So we're all trying really hard. It's just, I hate to say the Brexit word, but the Brexit has been a hiccup for this industry in the UK. You're over the hiccup now, and I'm quite hopeful that by the end of the year, you'll see Mana starting to operate there.
Amazing. Well, let us know when you do. We'll be the first order for sure.
You're invited to Dublin anytime. Just come over.
Let's
appreciate it.
I can see the future if I get to Dublin. I can't wait.
Indeed, in 50 minutes. All right.
So much
Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you soon.
Chat, guys. Bye-bye.
Congrats.
Awesome stuff. That'll show Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Indeed.